Welcome back, boys and girls. This is episode 7 of the Chase Doesn't Know podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode. You're awesome. I really appreciate you. My guest for this episode is the Jordan Hefler. If you know who I am, you probably know who Jordan Hefler is because she's way more famous than me. She has very close to 10,000 followers on Instagram. So if you're not following her, please go help her out. Jordan is a photographer by trade, but does about a bajillion other things and does all of them really well. If you are familiar with her, you know that she's very on brand in everything that she does. And from life experience, she has a lot of things to talk about, from photography and art all the way to business and negotiating licensing contracts. She's also an expert on the Kardashians and conspiracy theories. So that was a fun thing to talk about. Thanks again, Jordan, for hanging out with me. And I hope you all enjoy this episode with Jordan Hefler. So speaking of scandalous.
Food, anything.
Speaking of semi-scandalous, somewhat, I guess. What's your fascination with the Kardashians? Okay. Tell me about it. This makes a tiny bit of sense, but they repulse me in some way. So
you know Chase Mullen?
Yeah, I love Chase Mullen. Well, I met him through Thomas, and then bought a couple of his art. Talked to him a few times. I don't know. I think he would only remember me because my name is Chase. But yes, I love his work. I don't remember in what context I was talking to him about something, but he was like, "You're an enigma. Like you like the Kardashians, but you photograph like metal shows." But I'm like, yeah. I don't know. I like it all. No, the Kardashians to me, first off, I don't care who you are, they're beautiful. I will agree with that. Second of all, I am like so fascinated with, I like how you said fascinated too, because I don't like to say obsessed with, but I kind of am, but it's more of a fascination of the inner workings of like marketing and just the power to stay relevant from doing nothing at all in the first place. And now they do so much, but at the beginning it was just a relevancy for no reason, but they perpetuated that to an extent that I don't think anyone else has done. No person or family, much less. And Kris Jenner is a genius. Whatever she did, or the producers behind the scenes, Ryan Seacrest is one of the producers of the show. Okay. Whoever had this idea to give them a show, I think they did something with it that most other reality people don't. I don't watch a ton of reality TV at all, honestly. I don't watch The Housewives. I don't watch any of the Bravo things, whatever. But something about them being relevant for over 10 years on a TV show of doing nothing, and then it is so meta because it's they got really famous, but then the show got more interesting because they were so famous. So then it turns into you want to watch it because they're so rich and famous, but they got rich and famous from the show. Right. So it's this vicious cycle. And I think I'm just fascinated with that, the power of how Kim Kardashian really truly was the first influencer of this generation, of learning how to use social media on her own to become her own PR person. And the fact that they've all kind of had that media training to be able to harness their own power, and she's literally getting people out of jail now and talking with the president. She literally could be president. That is not that far out of reach, which is so crazy to say because 10 years ago, or her husband could be president. Yeah, okay. I photographed Kanye, but I believe in Kim's power to. Okay, Kim's got the power. Kim's got the power. Okay, Kanye is another world of. I don't even know, but I don't know. I'm just really fascinated. That was a really long answer, but it's a lot of. I think they're beautiful and they have cool opinions and they're funny and they're interesting for me to watch. But mostly it's the inner workings of how did they get to this point? Right. And is it possible for anyone to do this? Or was it because of just a bunch of the butterfly effect, a bunch of things that happened at once that made this possible? Right place, right time. Exactly. Right name, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I totally agree with all of that. Just I don't keep up with them. I don't keep up with the Kardashians, haha, in any way, really. But yeah, they just making so much money and having so much celebrity status from not really doing anything substantive, whatever that word is. Yeah. At least now they're selling a ton of products. Now they've become amazing businesswomen. They're actual moguls, and it's crazy. It is crazy. Yeah, Kylie the billionaire. Yeah. It's pretty nuts. Yeah. Cool. That was I had to ask you that. I want to make sure I squeeze that in. Because you just dressed up as Kris Jenner, oh my gosh. Right? I had Merry Christmas with my friends, and it was a wild night. Oh, Christmas KR. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, got it. Yeah. That was a really too much fun night. But yeah, I think it's just, they're
also the kind of family you can make fun of all you want, but at some level you have to respect them, but like they will also make fun of themselves. And so I think that's why they're also so successful too, is because like Kim published a whole book of like naked pictures of herself. Like you can't get in trouble or be taken down for anything because like you've already owned it all yourself, if that makes sense. And so it's interesting to me, like there's nothing that can be done to them because they're just so like they own it. Like what now? So
So speaking of the brand, since they're brand masters, Do What You Want brand is your thing. And I was going to ask you, I want to ask you two things. Where'd you come up with it?
Okay.
And then like, is this like a pervasive thing in like every second of your day? Or is this something that you're striving to live towards, I guess?
Those are good questions. So in 2016, I was working full-time at Manship Theater, like the end of 2015 to like the end of 2016. I was doing graphic design, which I still do graphic design there, but not full-time. I was working there full-time, busting my butt, pretty much doing photography on the side. Like if I had to be at work 9 to 5, I was doing editing before 9. I was like shooting headshots on my lunch break and then getting off and going to do senior portraits, like taking all my vacation days for paid work. All my weekends were like, I was going to New Orleans and shooting concerts. It was crazy. It was a very, very busy year. I was, what's that saying? Like burning the oil or the candle at both ends. No, but burning the candle at both ends, whatever. Because I wasn't really making enough money from the full-time job because it was nonprofit, but I wasn't making enough with photography because I only had limited hours of the day to do it on the side. So I was just doing double the amount of work for like nothing and just completely running myself ragged. And I found out around the summer of 2016, my right arm was completely numb. It just like, if you know when you hit your funny bone, it was that in my whole right arm, like all the time.
Wow.
And so started getting some CAT scans done and everything, and they found out I had a slipped disc in my neck and it was pushing on a nerve and it was giving me nerve damage or nerve pain in my right arm.
Wow.
And I was like out of vacation days and sick days, working full time to go to physical therapy and get all these things done. Because I mean, props to everyone who works full time, because I don't remember how I did it, because you can't. Because when you have so many issues like that. So I was always trying to figure out how to fix that, and then found out I needed surgery. Well, I had decided to quit and do photography full time, and I'm using air quotes because they ended up asking me like, no, don't leave. Like, can you just work 1 day a week and then we'll figure it out? And that was like 4 years ago, whatever. Cool. So I've been working like 1 day a week since then. But anyways, so after all that, I tried to like quit. I went to a creative conference because I was like really down. It was like September. My surgery was scheduled for November. I had just stopped working full time. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I was just like, okay, now that I'm going to do this thing, what am I going to... Like, I've been doing a lot of photography on the side, but is it enough to make, like, a salary? So I went to a creative conference called Venture Pop. It's no longer a thing, but it was in New Orleans. And I was like, this will be a great, like, inspirational thing, because I just started, like, my own business, even though I had been doing it, but it was going to be, like, a full-time thing. And they had a guy come, and it was this Dear World dude. He goes around to different events and does like black and white portraits of you. You write something on yourself in Sharpie, and he does these black and white portraits. It's very empowering. He's done it with like Steve Gleason and like all these people.
Right. Okay.
They were at the conference, and it was like, okay, what's your battle cry, or like your mission for your business? Like, write it on you. And I remember being like, I don't know, because like at the time I was very torn between like, do I photograph weddings? That's what every other photographer does. I want to really photograph music, but I don't know how to get into it. I also still want to like photograph like portraits of babies and like whatever I want, like fashion. And I didn't know what my mission statement was, and I blurted out, I don't know, I just do what I want. And my friend at the time, he's still my friend was there at the time, and he was like, that should be your battle cry. Just write like, do what you want. And I have the problem with apologizing. I think it's just ingrained in us as women, but also just like as creatives, we never feel like we're good enough, or we're stepping on people's toes for doing what we want. And so my words were, one arm said, do what you want. The other arm said, don't apologize. And they took my picture, and I was like, hey, it's kind of cool. And then it turned into this thing where I was like, I'll make little stickers that say do what you want on them, hand them out like instead of business cards. And then from there it kind of grew, because everyone liked the groovy font, and they were like, make t-shirts. And it turned into like, well, this is like a mindset thing. So to answer your second question, I'm long-winded, I'm sorry.
No, please. That is why we were here.
Okay, good. To answer your second question, do what you want was something I said, but it's not something I always believe. Like, I do so much stuff that I don't want all the time. Like, so it's kind of a reminder for me and other people, other creatives specifically, that you don't have to photograph weddings if you don't want to. You don't have to do the thing that everyone else in your field is doing. And so that kind of became the tagline. And so like I said, have so many days where I don't do what I want. Like, I'm still doing work I don't want. I'm still having clients that I don't feel like I'm a good fit with. I'm still doing things that I don't want to do. But it's kind of like a reminder that, like, every day I want to push towards being able to 100% do what I want. And I don't mean, like, I always have to say, like, I don't mean do what you want, like, you know, lay on the couch all day or, like, go rob a bank. I mean, like, creatively, like, do what you want. If I want to photograph metal shows and babies in the same day, like, you can do it. There's no one saying you can't. And if there's no one else doing it, that might be a good thing. You can be the one to do it. So that's where all that came from.
So that's interesting. You said, like, or in passing, you said that's what all the other photographers do, like weddings and stuff.
Yeah.
And it seems like pretty much everyone I see on the web or wherever that does photography does weddings. But I've heard you say in a lot of your podcast episodes that you hate doing weddings.
I do.
So what was it like? How did you push through that? I have to make money. Weddings are an easy money grab versus I don't want to do it because I don't want to do it, and go and trying to break into the other scenes.
I still struggle with that. There are days when I'm like, I should just go shoot a wedding. I'd be set for the month.
Yeah.
But I just can't. Like, I used to work for a wedding photographer in college. I was an intern for a couple of years, and then when I graduated from LSU, I spent the whole year after graduating working for her in her office, doing all her editing. I would second shoot weddings with her. I was kind of just along for the process of a lot of weddings, a lot of really big weddings. And then it occurred to me, like, wait, I'm getting paid like an hourly rate to do a lot of this work, like, and she's making a couple thousand. Maybe I should try to do some of my own too. Well, no one tells you. You can't just, like, take $4,000 and shoot someone's wedding if you have no photos to show them, hey, I do this. So you get the really shitty weddings. You get the really cheap people. You get, like, the bad aesthetic. Like, you get the low end of stuff because you have to start somewhere. Well, weddings are booked like a year in advance. So you book something, then you get really good all year, and then it comes time to do it, and you're like, this is like $1,000 for like 8 hours. This is stupid. Like, and so I really just didn't enjoy it. I did a couple on my own. I had some creepy, weird things happen to me that, like, I'm not super spiritual or religious, but I was like, is this like someone telling me I should stop doing this? Because
please tell, like, what happened?
One wedding I was photographing, I was at the altar, like, turned looking down the aisle, and the bride and groom, or the bride and the dad were coming down the aisle, and my lens just stopped working for no reason. I luckily was wearing another camera, so I, picked it up, but I was like panicking. Yeah, of course. Full panic mode, because the bride's like looking at me, they're smiling, and I'm just like, oh my God, it just stopped working, and then it worked immediately afterwards.
Wow, that's crazy.
And then another wedding, my flash, same thing, stopped working like 2 minutes before the ceremony, mysteriously started working right after it ended. Damn. And I'm just like, I don't have time to have this. It's like no amount of money is worth the pressure I felt like I died, went to heaven, like, was watching myself over, like, the clouds, like, struggle. It was just like so much anxiety and pressure. And then you still have to go home and edit all that. So when you shoot for like 8 hours, that's a lot of photos to go through. Like, honestly, people are like, wedding photography is so expensive. Like, they make so much money. They do, but it's really, in my opinion, not worth the amount of time that you put into it. Really? Honestly, I'd rather take like 5 or 6 portrait gigs, 1 hour a piece, whatever, and like make the same amount of money over like a week. So I don't know. I just really don't like it. Also, I've never been like that sappy girl who like loves weddings. Like, I can't even visualize
like
my
rock.
own. Well,
or metal.
And I've been to weddings and I've been in them, and I
very strongly dislike going to weddings.
I have yet to have fun at a wedding. I'm sorry, anyone listening, and I went to your wedding. Like, I didn't have fun. I'm actually going to a wedding on Saturday. Hopefully, it'll be fun. A lot of my friends will be there, but
not to shoot.
Not to shoot. Heck no. Just to party. But just even thinking about it, I'm like, my feet are going to hurt in the heels. Like, I'm wearing a strapless romper. It's going to be annoying all night. Like, it's going to rain. Like, I'm already, like, not interested. So, sorry, anyone listening. But, yeah, so I just feel like if people out there that really want to shoot weddings exist, like, I would so much rather give them the business, because that's how I feel about so many other things. I would rather someone else, referred me for that concert they didn't want to shoot or whatever. Yeah. So I've built a big list of referral people. So if you ask me, can I shoot your wedding? I'm like, nope, but here are 25 people I know. Like,
that's
check
cool.
them out. So,
that's good, helping others out with it.
Yeah. I have long answers. I'm really sorry.
That's great.
I'm never the one that talks this much. I usually interview the people.
Right. Well, that's what I count on, is people talking a lot. I interviewed a friend of mine a couple episodes ago who's a chef, and after we talked for like 2.5 hours, and after my dad listened to it, he like texted me or whatever. He's like, "Wow, Gavin's the easiest interviewer ever," because he probably talked like 94% of the time or something.
That's always good.
But it was excellent. The less I talk, the better that these things are.
Okay, well, just let me know if I'm talking too fast or too much, because that happens sometimes.
All good.
All the time.
Love it. You said that you take a crap load of pictures at weddings.
Yeah.
How many pictures? Just take like you went to Voodoo Fest recently, so like a day of Voodoo Fest. How many pictures did you take?
So I've been asked this before, and I don't know why I can never remember the number. I mean, like I pretty much average. It depends on the assignment too. So, like if it's a concert and I only can shoot 3 songs, like you only get 500 photos, and then you edit it down to maybe 20 good ones, and you only use like 4 of them.
Right. Okay.
But or a portrait session. If it's like senior portraits, LSU's campus, I could do it with my eyes closed. Like it's a formula. Like we'll be done like clockwork. I'll probably have like 500 final photos. I'll go through them. You'll probably get like 50 final ones I edit. But something like South by Southwest or Voodoo Fest or something where you're just like out there all freaking day. I mean, it's like 10,000 photos a day.
That blows my mind.
At least. And so, but you have to go through them. And so people just, that's my biggest like gripe, I think, as a freelance photographer. Everyone's like, it's expensive, or why I can't afford your budget or your rate. And I'm like, you don't understand what I'm doing for you in person. I'm doing the same amount of time on the back end at home. So it's not just that much for me to come click a button or something. Like I have to do all this and go through it and process the photos and then edit them all and then export them all and upload them all and copyright them all and email them to you and edit out whatever.
Loads of time.
Yeah. So it's not just being there in person. So some of those things, like South by Southwest is a big thing I do where it's like 11 days or something, and it's like 10-hour days.
Dang.
And I go to like 20 events in a day. It's ridiculous. And that's like, I think by the end of, I wrote down the number. I don't remember, but I want to say it was like 30,000 photos or something.
Golly.
That I had to like go through to like edit.
How long did that take?
For like a whole week after I got home.
A whole nother week to just go through photos.
Yeah. Go through them and edit them and organize them, and you have to do the SEO and like name them and do the metadata and put them in the right folders and send them off. So it's a whole thing. So a lot of the time I'm out in the world, but the other half of it, I'm just like on the computer.
So I was going to ask you about your actual process. I'm super fascinated because I was listening to the episode that you interviewed on your podcast, the football photographer.
Kyle Zedeker.
That was like probably one of my favorites.
So talented. I fangirled so hard that I was able to interview him. I don't know if you realize how obsessed I was.
Yeah,
I've never even met him in person. I'm just like obsessed with him.
Yeah, his photos are pretty nuts.
Oh yeah,
they're really good.
They're really good.
But in that episode, he said that in like one game he takes like 3,500 pictures or something.
Yeah.
And so when he said that, I was like, God, that is like so many photos.
Well, in sports too. Concerts are like that too, but sports especially, and the type of equipment they use, like if you're working professionally for sports, you have like camera gear on another level. It's like the cameras, the shutter speeds are so much faster, like everything. So you're taking more frames per second. So it's not even that like it's that much different. It's like
he could do like 10 in a second or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what he uses, but the real sports photographers, like I say real because I don't consider myself one, they're shooting because it's such fast action and everything. Every play they've got like 50 shots.
Right. Okay, so I definitely want to talk about sports because exciting development in recent days, which we'll get to. Very exciting development. And it was like perfect timing that you came to do the podcast right now.
Because you're going to release this on Monday, right?
Right,
and
Monday morning.
The day of the thing.
Exactly, the day of the thing that we will at some point talk about in the next couple minutes. Okay, so you get back from like a day, or let's say you get back from your week at South by Southwest, you have 30,000 photos.
Yeah.
How do you like organize your actual workflow? Do you keep them like organized by day or by event, and then what's like, how do you narrow them down?
That's something that if I think about it too hard, I stress myself out because it's kind of different every time. So for South by Southwest, that is probably the beastliest thing I do, which is like, so what I do for South by Southwest is I work for the client events team. So that's sponsors for South by Southwest. I've only done it the past 2 years, so I may or may not be doing it again this year. But in years past, it's been the big sponsors for South by Southwest. So that's like Anheuser-Busch and AccuView and Mercedes and I don't know, like Twitter and all these companies.
So you're like shooting for all of them too, like all of their products and...
Yeah, they're events. So at South by Southwest, it's like all about branded activation. So they're like these crazy off-the-chain events where like they like literally will rent a building downtown in Austin and like repaint it and like make it branded, put like wraps. What's it called?
Like the vinyl
building
wraps,
yeah, around like the whole building.
Wow.
Like they'll remodel everything. They get like everything flown in and new furniture and everything's decorated. It's like multi-million-dollar like renovations for like a week.
Dang.
For a party, essentially. So photographing those things in one way is easy because it's beautiful. You show up and it's like great. Mm-hmm. In other ways, it's hard because you're doing so much of it and it's a lot of the same thing over and over again. So it's like get a picture of like someone holding the branded cup. Okay, 2 people smiling and like cheersing. Okay, now like get like the wide shot of the whole thing. Make sure the logo's in there. Okay, now make sure you get like every little branded piece of paper that's around. And okay, now let's get someone using the product or interacting. So it's a lot of the same thing.
Are they like brands. Giving you those notes? Like they say we want all these things. And
and so there'll be like a massive shot list, like huge spreadsheet. There's 5 of us and we try to split it up and hit everything the best we can so that no sponsor didn't have photos, but so that every sponsor has at least 2 of us covering it because we all have different creative eyes too. So we might go shoot the same event and have completely different photos. Or go at different times and there might be different people, more diversity in the crowd or less diversity or just like a different DJ on stage or whatever. Yeah. So it's just a massive
undertaking.
Yes. And I really can't stress it enough because people like try to ask, it looks so fun. I'm like, it's really fun, but it's a lot of freaking work and it's very long days because some of these parties don't end until 2 a.m. but then they start again the next day at 9 and you have different assignments everywhere. So, and you walk everywhere and it's just crazy. So to answer your original question, all those photos I shoot in RAW. So RAW files are...
Yes, please explain the details of this. I'm very curious.
I'm not good at tech.
I just got a real camera. So I told you I work at Elephant and I do the marketing. So
Are you the one making the TikToks?
Yeah.
Big fan.
Nice. Appreciate that. We're going to talk about TikTok today.
Okay.
Because I know you've been like, I think yesterday I looked, you had done like 4 videos in an afternoon.
Like in a day.
I was like, I need to do more TikToks.
But like they're all stupid. I get like 2 likes. I'm like, amazing. Moving on.
They're good. They're all legit. I love them. No, what was I saying? So I just got right. So the past year, I've done all of our social stuff, all of our listing photos, like professional. I've done it with my drone and then with my iPhone.
Okay.
And then edit.
You have a drone
Lightroom.
That's already fancy pants. Like I don't know how to do any of that.
Super easy.
Never done any of that.
I should have brought it. We
never
could have
played with one.
Flown it around in here. But we did just get like a real EOS M50 camera.
Is it Canon?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I shoot Nikon, so I don't know things, but
right. So I guess like I don't really know a ton about it, but I want to at least try to. Okay. All right. Well, let's just cut the episode now. Okay.
No, really, honestly, I'm like not super knowledgeable about gear, and I think people are always shocked to hear that.
That blows my mind because like answer this question quickly. You have, let's say, like the Kanye photo that you shared as one of your top. Mm-hmm. That photo, what percentage was your effort in that photo, on taking the photo versus editing after to make it look incredible?
1,000% taking the photo. That was one of the hardest things I had to do because the crowd was so crazy. I had borrowed a camera from someone because I had sent mine off for repair the day before and then found out I was doing that the day of and was like freaking out. I was using a super long lens, but I was holding it above my head. So like my arms were so sore. I was so packed in the crowd, I couldn't put my arms back down.
Wow.
So I was just like zooming in and hoping for the best. And so actually editing it wasn't that much.
Okay. What about the average photo then?
But the average photo, it kind of depends. If it's a portrait, not that much editing. I have presets I've developed for certain lighting situations. Slap them on.
So you do know a ton because I have like that. You lost me on all of this lighting presets and setting up for all that.
Okay, so maybe I know something.
Yes.
I forget that I know a lot compared to the average Joe, but I know a fraction compared to the average photographer.
Okay, makes sense, I guess.
I promise I'm still professional. You should hire me. But yeah, so when you're editing, if it's a concert photo, I'm doing a lot of work to that because so many times like you are not in control of the lighting and it's flashing different colors, different times. The people are moving so fast on stage. Like you might have someone else's hand in the way of your photo or a crowd surfer kicking your head or another photographer, cutting in front of you, whatever. So there's usually more editing in those. If it's a band that has really great lighting, it's like an arena show, like it's easy peasy because usually any band that is getting videoed will have good light.
Okay.
Because for video, you have to have like so much light.
Right.
If it's just like at, if you remember Chelsea's, like in the corner with like a, drop light and
terrible.
A kid with like an acoustic guitar, like I'm throwing all those bitches in black and white because it looks so bad. Like there's not much you can do to edit. So concert stuff, I edit way more. Football stuff, kind of depends. More so color correction because the stadium lights like look kind of funky. Mm-hmm. Like we always look blue. Like the LSU purple looks blue in photos.
Really?
So I have to like physically go take the blue and make it look purple.
Wow.
I don't know if other people do that, and it's probably unethical. I'm not an actual journalist, so I do what I want. But yeah, overall, it's usually more work shooting. But if it's like a portrait, it's kind of easier because I can tell you, stand like that. Oh, you blinked, I'll do it again. Other situations, you don't get a do-over. It's like that was the moment.
Right.
You have it or you don't. So
that's the thing I'm thinking, or I was wanting to see what you thought about, because like with the iPhone, it's like 1% taking the photo, just like framing it and push and go, and then I depend on editing it after to make it look as good as possible.
Definitely.
And they don't look amazing, but they look better than all the other real estate firms, so that's good.
Yeah.
But
especially with iPhone, because iPhone, you can't, like, what you see in the world is not how the iPhone's going to capture it.
Right.
And so you have to edit things to look the way it looked to you when you took it.
Right. Or like sense. Way better.
Yeah.
Like blow out the colors and stuff. Okay, so speaking of this, chromatic, I know you have like everything is fantastical colors. And
fantastical. That's a fun word.
And your Instagram feed is like awesome.
Thanks.
So how did you create your, what is it, like palette, I guess? How did you create your palette? Do you just love orange? I mean, you're wearing an orange sweater right now.
And I showed up
awesome.
in my orange car. Yeah. It's definitely become very intentional as time has gone on. Starting out, like, this is always weird for me to talk about because I love color, but I wear a lot of black. I listen to a lot of like rock music. It's not like a pop bubblegum, like, thing all the time. But I realized in college, someone had told me, because I did a lot of experimental photography in college. I studied photography at LSU, and so depending on, I didn't know anything about brand or style. I was just like, I'm doing this for this assignment and this for this assignment, and everything looked kind of different, at least in my opinion. I would just do whatever I wanted. I didn't even think about having something look cohesive. And someone in a critique in college once told me, like, oh, you always have such good use of color. And I remember being like, I do? Okay, cool. And then I started looking at things and being like, oh, I'm drawn to the same types of colors. Like this Jucifer can in front of us is like pink and orange and yellow and purple. And like, those are the colors I use in my photos, honestly. And that's why I'm so drawn to this design of this can. So once I kind of started realizing I did, cohesive color palettes already, subconsciously, I kind of just intentionally started trying to keep that consistent. And it can be hard because there are times where I really, as my brand is do what you want, I really want to do something different. Like I want to do something crazy or completely different. And I still do it, but I might not share it on my Instagram, or it might just be like a different
I was curious
approach.
how you kind of develop and experiment while maintaining your brand.
That is a great question, and it's hard. I cover my butt a lot with that because my brand is do what you want.
Okay.
Which is kind of part of it, because I'm just like, if anyone wants to come at me and ask me, I'll be like, I don't know, I'm just doing what I want, like, and then change the subject. But no, because I love to shoot black and white, edit in black and white. I don't post much black and white because it doesn't perform well, like from like an analytics side, but I still feel like as a photographer, I should put my best work out there. And if I think my best work that day is not bright orange, like I'll put it out there. And it kind of just developed over time when I became more aware of the content I was shooting. So I would be drawn to like an orange thing, take a picture of it, or B, a thing that wasn't quite on brand for me. Maybe I edited it like in a quote unquote normal way for the client, but I still might edit it further to have the tones to look good on my
use
feed.
For yourself.
So,
and
then sometimes clients want that. They want me to do something crazy retro, whatever, but it's very few and far between. And so many of my commercial clients actually come back to me and say like, wait, can you re-edit this to be less orange? Like sometimes I'm just subconsciously just like doing all this stuff to colors, and it doesn't always work for the client. But going back to the do what you want being like a mindset and like a goal, I want it to eventually be like, you only hire me because you want me to edit this way, not me kind of doing both.
Is that like that's when you have peak brand, I guess, is whenever?
I guess, yeah. And sometimes like it's a really great fit with another brand, because I love to do commercial work and do branding photos for other brands. But if it's not in alignment with my brand, then sometimes there's a disconnect with what the client wanted and what I delivered.
Right.
So
how often do you say no nowadays?
Not often, because I'm kind of broke right now, to be honest.
So you're doing a wedding next weekend?
No, but I was okay. So I stand my ground with weddings. As of now, like I said, if I'm eating dirt, like it's bad, or if it's like someone really cool who has a really cool idea for a wedding that like I just feel like it would be beautiful photos, like amazing. I'm not saying I would never do it again. It's just I really don't want to. I don't want to photograph everyone's mason jar burlap, Nottoway plantation weddings. Like everyone else can do that. I don't need to. So I'm saying no to those types of things. Also, I don't really mess with maternity pics. Like did a couple pregnant bellies kind of weird me out.
My wife is like, her due date is Monday.
Oh my gosh, what?
Yeah, and
you're here?
Right.
Oh my God,
Thank
go
you,
home.
Tori. Thank you. She had a doctor's appointment this morning, and I was like, "Can I squeeze in a podcast tomorrow night?" And so she's the best.
Oh my gosh, thanks.
But whenever we found out that we were pregnant, and even before that, I was like, "We're not doing maternity pictures, right?" And she was like, "Yeah, probably not." And then once we got pregnant, I said, "We're like not doing maternity pictures, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, we're not doing that." And I was like, "Thank you," because whenever I love whenever people get pictures that they want, like, good for them.
Do what you want.
Do what you want.
I just don't
love
want.
It. Right. I just don't want to do that because it's like, especially the ones I've seen a couple just on social media where, I don't know, it's just like the weirdest stuff. They paint their belly.
Yeah,
and
like the husband's
they're
like kissing the belly
naked,
button, and then there's like
all that
face.
stuff.
It's
I'm not into it. I'm not into it.
So yeah, I steer clear. And also like, don't. I would pay you to not.
Right.
Ask me
Yeah.
to photograph you giving birth. Like, I just have no desire. There are people who do that and specialize in it. Amazing, but absolutely not. Like, I don't want to put your bloody C-section like in an artistic form. Like, it's just not for me. So
yeah, right.
I don't know. So I do say no to some things, obviously. And also, like, if the budget's too low, like, I'm at a point now where I'm a lot more confident in my numbs. Like, in the beginning, I'd be like, sure, it's like 8 hours. I'll charge you like $10. I'll drive you there. You don't have to give me any change. Like, so that's probably the biggest thing now is like people reach out and it just doesn't work with their budget, or they just never respond, or like they want it like tomorrow, and I'm like, this is a lot of work for not a great payoff for me, which sounds selfish, but working in business, it's supposed to be mutually beneficial.
Of course, yeah.
And people, I think, forget about that. And every time I think this is going to be like good for just the money side, it always ends up being like a failed, like annoying, stressful situation. So it has to be something that I really think I'll use the photos, or that I'd be good at doing it for them. Like I could help them, but they could also help me financially, and has to be like a mutual thing. Otherwise, like, that's when I get into these situations where there's miscommunication and expectations are not met by either side. So
do you have any like nightmare stories you want to tell me? Clients super mad and like wanting their money back and stuff?
I only have like one story like that. They were still very I don't want to say polite about
Semi-polite?
it, but yeah, but I had to stand my ground and be like, per our contract, I did X, Y, and Z, delivered it to you within the time parameters, and you asked for X, Y, Z, and I went above and beyond, and I stand by what I gave you. Like, I'm not doing it again. And the end. And they just never responded. And so...
And did you get paid?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Right
but
on.
it was also one of the situations where I undercharged, thought it'd be something really easy, I'll just squeeze it, whatever. And it ended up being something that took like 4 times as long. Like, I gave them extra photos just to cover my butt. Mm-hmm. And it just ended up being a disaster. So, but I don't have a ton of those stories, luckily. If people hated my photos, hopefully they just went home and just never said anything. Like, people have never like straight up told me, besides like this last situation. But I've had, like I told you, some situations where people were like, oh, this looks great, but like our brand is like this. Can you edit it to be a little more of that? And I have to try to not get offended by those situations, because I have to remember, like, I'm a brand. Like, if you gave me a photo and it wasn't orange, yellow, whatever, I would not want to post it. So I get it. So I try to be a little logical in the situations, but it always comes down to like, why are you hiring me? Like, do you like what I do and how I make photos? Like, because if you don't, then this is already, before we even get started, probably not going to work.
Right. So what you're doing, like your Instagram and website and things like that, and the brand that you're kind of have established and are operating in, have you found that has that been like a good tool to increase your prices and get more specific on who you work with? Yeah.
So as a creative, I've learned that we all undercharge already, and we don't even know it. Like, I once heard someone say, like, if you quote a number, your stomach needs to flip.
Nice.
Or else it's not high enough, and it's still usually probably not high enough, because there's something about artists we just don't. Because I know for me, like, if it were up to me, I would just do everything for free for everyone all the time. But like, that doesn't work with a business model.
Right.
So, but then, as you get settled into numbers, I find myself also having the other side of like the ego, where it's like, well, I don't do that for this. Like, and then I just kind of like go through periods where I hate photography, because I'm just like, if it's not for money, I don't want to do it. And I forget what it's like to just like do something for fun, or not monetize it, or just, spend time doing something I like to do, because I do like photography. But there's times when I get too, I guess, business minded, where it kind of ruins it for me. So
it's more like a chore.
I try to stay somewhere in the middle, because It is work, but it's still something I want to do. Otherwise, if I didn't want to do it, I would just go work at like Starbucks or something. You could like work for anyone else not liking what you do, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think I heard you mention something along those lines in one of your episodes where you're doing this thing because you really enjoy it. And then once you decide that you want to do it to make money, you kind of lose some of that.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because I enjoy it.
Well, because 1% of my time is spent actually doing the stuff I love. The other 99% is all the bullshit that comes along with it, like quoting and sales tax and driving to and from the place and like rearranging your schedule and, you know, having to deal with emailing and the exporting and the name and all the dumb stuff that goes with it. So if you don't like what you're doing, even the 1%, like it's like, what's the point of doing all this on your own? Because like you really could go work for someone else, clock out at 5 o'clock, have benefits, not have to pay $300 a month for healthcare that doesn't cover anything, and be fine, you know? So it's that 1% I have to hold on to.
Okay, I was gonna say how have you kept it like you know going on both ends of it? It's
funny you asked that because so I was saying I work at Manship Theater doing graphic design once a week. I didn't study graphic design in college. It is just kind of a job I fell into after I was working with the photographer. And I enjoy it. I don't consider myself like amazing graphic designer. I just pretty much have experience doing stuff with Manship Theater, which is a lot of photo-based design work. So like, here's a photo of a performer, here's a logo, date, time, tickets available here, export it. Like I work very fast there. I make like 50 things a day. Like it's
super structured.
Yes, it's a lot of template-based work. I get to be creative. I have a lot of creative freedom, but it's not like I'm not like Thomas Wimberly, like designing things, like sketching, like being super intellectual and metaphorical. It's not like that at all. So. But it's still creativity, and I really enjoy where creativity meets functionality, and I think that's exactly what graphic design is, and photography to an extent, like commercial photography. But when I'm feeling like I hate running my business, it's usually in the times where I'm not getting booked a lot, and so it's like through the...
Carl's playing something over there.
It's okay. When I'm not liking photography, it's pretty much always tied to because I'm not making money right now. And so, because it's hard to differentiate like your talent and you as a person from like money. And so when you're not getting booked, you're like, I suck. Everyone hates me.
Right.
But they're just low seasons. So in those seasons, I love what I do at Manship Theater because I haven't stopped doing graphic design for them in the past couple of years, but like in the times where I don't have much going on, I pick back up there and do work there more. And it's a great way to still be creative, take your mind off things, do something completely different for a different brand. And that's kind of how I like to take a quote-unquote break, because I can't take a break. I do photography for a living, but there are definitely months where nothing happens. So I just I'll go paint, or I get on TikTok, do something stupid. Yeah. So still be creative in other ways to kind of take a step back from photography and then remember why you liked it.
Right.
Otherwise, you just completely burn out.
You did paint. I saw you painted your dad's car the other day. That was like incredible.
Thanks.
I don't think I've seen anything you painted before, and I was like,
because I don't really do it.
It was like you just do all this stuff, and you're like doing it all really well. So it's pretty cool.
Thank you. That's another problem I have though, is I try to monetize everything. So I can't just do stuff.
I actually put a note in my little nifty notepad over here about, by the way, feel free to take a break. If two things about this particular situation: these chairs are terrible. I told Carl these chairs are really bad.
It's fine. I just keep I'm
like always adjusting and stuff. And then I always drink my beverage before the guests because I'm making them talk a lot. So feel free to.
Oh no, you're fine. I am a good multitasker. I can drink beer and do pretty much anything.
Nice,
so.
Love it. Edit photos, paint cars, and all that.
I've done it all.
Have you done a beer TikTok yet?
I haven't.
Might be something.
But what should I do?
I mean, that's what you have to come. You're the creative person, right?
It's been a while since I funneled something, so.
Wow. Okay. Put some good music behind it. It could go viral.
I don't know. Everyone on there's like 12, so I don't want to be like bad influence.
Bad influence
for the children.
Might get like rated for 18 plus or whatever.
I'm very scandalous.
Whenever I was looking at your profile TikTok videos, you had a video of your foot that got like what 100,000.
It's at 200,000 views, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I was talking to someone else about this the other day because I downloaded TikTok last spring because I was like, everyone says this is a thing. Actually, I was at South by Southwest, and to get a free fanny pack, I had to download TikTok in front of them. I have a TikTok fanny pack because I needed something to hold my crap in. It was clear. I'm like, perfect, great, I'll take it. But they were, because TikTok had an activation.
Right.
I was like, I don't know what you are, but I'll download your app. Give me the fanny pack. So I had the app already on my phone. So I started playing around on it, and I was like, I don't really understand what this is. all the girls are just like doing like very strange, but it's like not good. Like I was a cheerleader, like this is not dancing. Like I'm about to start busting out my old cheer moves on here and get viral because these girls are not doing real dances. They're doing like little like Macarena moves basically. And the guys on there just like all have weird haircuts and like they roll their eyes and like smoke their jewels, and then it's like the end of the video. I'm like, what is the point of this?
Does it make you feel a little old?
It does, because I truly in my mind am still 17, and I very much still have like 17-year-old habits. Like I watch SpongeBob, I eat like canned chili, like I'm not crazy. So when I downloaded TikTok, I was like, this is dumb, I don't care about this. But then I started reading how in marketing it's gonna boom, and as a content creator I was like, I feel like even if I hate this I should be on it, because I've resisted video for so long anyways. As a photographer, I just want to take pictures, but that's, people want to see video. So I downloaded it and I was like, let me just upload a video I already have on my camera roll. And so I had a video from like a year ago from an Instagram story of a makeup sponge in my cowboy boot. That was it, because I had like a spot that gave me a blister.
Right.
So I had worn it all night long with a sponge in there. And I got like a video of me taking my foot off with the sponge coming out. It's like probably 5 seconds, not even. And
it went nuts.
Well, I was like, this is a year ago from Instagram stories. I don't think anyone cared about it at the time. I just had it in my camera roll. I was like, I'll upload this to TikTok. And I put like hashtag like pro tip. And it was like, if you have a blister, like put a sponge in your boot.
Yeah.
The end. That was it. And I don't understand. Like, it has 200,000 views. I keep getting likes every day on it. And I'm like, this is not even this has nothing to do with me or anything.
It's like a pro tip.
It's not even interesting. I don't understand. It's so bizarre. So, but that was also like one of the first videos I uploaded. So my perception was skewed. I'm like, great, every video's going to get 200K. Like, I'll get all these new like clients from this and like followers. It'll be great. And no, everything since then is like peaked at like 20 likes.
Yeah. That algorithm is like, because I've posted a couple and one has gotten like 8,000, which is a lot, not 200,000. And then I did one on my own and it got like 2,000. But then the next one got like 40. So I think it's just all about
and like the ones that I think are actually good. And like I keep pimping out my dog on there because he's so cute. I'm like, okay, Ringo's going to get famous. He's going to like be my cash cow. Like we'll get him on here. And he does pretty good. But so the painting video was the only other one that really did well. I think people like time lapse and TikTok people like to see before and afters and process. So I'm trying to figure out how I can make videos of like maybe me editing a photo or like
that'd be cool.
Doing something with my photography, because I follow a couple of photographers on there that do some creative things on TikTok that really aren't that crazy, things that I've been doing on my Instagram stories forever, but just not in a TikTok form and with that audience. So I'm like, what can I do on here to tap into this market? And obviously everyone that's going to follow me is going to be like 13. Right. So they're not going to hire me, but they might come, follow my stuff, listen to my podcast, or they might buy some presets, or who knows. True, so it's worth, venturing into.
So going back to what I was going to ask you a second ago about all of that stuff is you have, all these things happening. You've got products and presets and course and things like that. So and again, I heard you mention this on one of your episodes about creating revenue streams.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about like, what was the first, I guess, other product that you came up with, and how have you developed through that with your brand?
So,
and how much money have you made from all of these other things?
Not that much. Photography is still my main hustle. But so a great example is completely transparent. I don't make 6 figures. Like, I bust my ass. I don't make that much. And I still get a little bit from Mansion Theater being there part-time. But there was a month in 2019 that I invoiced out. Does not mean I got back that money on that month, but I invoiced out $13,000 worth of work.
Nice.
There was another month that I only made $87 because I sold like 2 t-shirts and like a hat.
Wow.
So that is like the complete, like...
That's the swing.
That is...
Dang.
It's ridiculous. So for me, I'm always like on my toes, like what can I do just in case? Like, because with my neck and back problems, like what happens if I can't shoot? Like what if if I slip another disc and I can't shoot? So I've just tried to be creative with little things here and there, because maybe I don't make that much from selling a t-shirt, but that $80 that month was like something, So, I mean... I don't know what the first product was that I tried. I think probably t-shirts, because everyone was like, oh, do what you want. That's cool. Put it on a shirt. Put it on a shirt. Sold like nothing. Sold like 5 of them. You have to get minimums. You have to buy things up front. Right. And I'm fronting it all myself. And so I'm just basically at this point trying to pay back what I've got. And so the merch thing is fun. I like to design things. It's fun for me, but it's definitely not like a money maker. If anything, it's just a great thing that's consistently $20 here and there I'm getting,
I would say too, from like, because we haven't met before, but I've been following you for a while, and just like on the outside looking at your brand, quote unquote brand, it having all of those other things, it's like, dang, she's doing like all this stuff. She's got all these things that you
overwhelming.
can
I feel like it's not a good thing.
Like, I think it's great.
I feel like I need to, everyone's always like, you need to have a niche. You need to niche down, have like 2 products and be good at it. I can't. When you work for yourself, the people who say that need to go work for themselves. Like, it's so scary because if I only do like 2 things, like what happens if I can't do that one thing, or if no one wants it anymore? Like, I have to have something else going on, and maybe I have too many things going on, probably so. But I don't talk about it a lot, but I do freelance graphic design. I don't really promote it because I don't really want to do it. I like to do mashup theater graphic design. That's what I'm comfortable with. But I've done a couple logos. I work for some freelance stuff for a jewelry company in Austin right now. I'm making like their ads and stuff. Cool. So I do some stuff because worst comes to worst, I have that, But also worst comes to worst, I have like hats I can sell. Like, it's inventory it's not food. It's not going to go bad. It's not like going to go anywhere. So I have that. Photography is my main thing. That's how I make the most money. And it's the one thing I'm confident charging the most for because it's actually me, my time, my hands, my eyes doing this thing. Everything else is kind of just like passive. And I don't like to say passive because it still takes work. Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's like, it's just stuff.
It's not like pay for time directly.
Right. And so that's why I really want to focus more on digital products, because I made some workshops a couple of years ago. It took a lot of time and effort. And honestly, I haven't watched them since I made them because it's like watching yourself. It's just so hard. I don't really listen to my podcasts. I just do stuff and put it out there and forget about it. But that has been great because it's like you do the work once and you can help more people with less time. It's always on your website. You can always promote it. So that's something I want to do more of because for me, that just seems like the smartest way to work. And there are complete idiots out there doing it and making like 5 times the amount that I am. Trust me, because I bought their workshops and they weren't good.
Dang.
So it's the whole industry with the internet that's opened up. So I feel like it's hard to, like I told you, do something and not monetize it. But when you work for yourself, you kind of have to be creative in that way because something you do might just go out of style or people don't want it anymore. Or like I said, I might get injured or whatever. So trying to find things all the time that I can monetize. That aren't like too desperate looking.
I think all the stuff looks great. That's one of the things I like about following you is that the brand, everything's on brand, and then you offer like a bunch of podcast and all of the tools and website. Your website has like a ton of info, and like you put a ton of info and work into all of your podcast episodes, and I just like post who's on my podcast, whatever. So. I was a little fat, and I wanted to ask also, like, what's your daily time management? How would you rank your time management skills?
It's been really bad lately, especially with the holidays.
Because there's like a million things it seems like you're doing a million things. So I was going to see,
and I am, and that's kind of the problem. There's no structure. So I have always been really good at doing things fast. They might not be perfect, but I don't really care. Like I'm not a perfectionist in that way. I'm very much like, let's just get it out.
Are you like that way because you know you don't have time, or because you're just naturally?
I'm impatient as hell. Like I don't know. So my boyfriend is extremely thorough, detail oriented, meticulous. Like, that's not centered enough. Like, let's double check it 8 times. Like, whatever. I can be that way to an extent, to the point where I'm comfortable putting my name on something. But I'm very much like, let's get it out. Let's just roll with it. Like, see what happens. Like, if it sucks, I'll just delete it. Like, whatever. So I don't really have a structure for most things, but I feel like I'm really good at, like, it's kind of like sporadic and like bipolar a little bit. Like, one day I'm like, I am the most productive. I did 400 things a day, designed an entire, like, this, like, did 5 TikToks, like went to the mall, like got food, like walked the dog, whatever, did everything. And then there's some days where I just didn't do a thing. And I'm really hard on myself. I've been trying to be better about that because I have to remember, like, there was a day where I did like 4 times the amount of the work. So like, it's not like I'm doing nothing now. It's like I did too much that one day. So I really have to try. So you want more of a balance rather than a ton of work every day. Yeah. Got it. And there's certain months, like I told you, I'm like a farmer. Like certain months, like, it's just bad for photography. And like I said, it's really hard when you work for yourself and you do something that you love and it's you're putting you into it. It's hard to separate that from the money side. So like when I'm not making money, I'm like borderline depressed. I'm like, I don't want to do art. I don't want to do it. I'm not good. Like no one's paying me. Nothing's happening. So then it's like, it swings, And but then when I'm really busy, I'm like, wow, everyone loves me. It's great. Like it's amazing. Like I'm amazing. Like do it. And then like when it ends, it's like back to like, meh. So that's probably not the best answer or the most accurate answer, but really there's no structure. And that's something I don't know how I do what I do. I really don't, because it's so different every day.
Sounds like you just want to get it done and you just do it.
Yeah.
That's what I think, like,
and then if I don't want to, I put it off.
Right, procrastinate. I'm a good procrastinator. And then also I think I struggle with, like, my phone background is stop. I've got stuff on it, but it's like, don't overthink. Quit overthinking, start doing.
Yeah.
Because
Nike,
like,
just do it.
I feel like I struggle just getting the first, like, there's been days where at the end of the day I'm like, yes, I did so much, but then there's also days where I feel like I can't just do the very first thing I need to do, and then and I'm doing nothing for an hour or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So like, it sounds like that's what you're doing. That's a great tip.
Yeah,
and just to start the first thing.
It really was bad over the holidays because pretty much October, I'm like super busy every day. November, pretty busy. And then Cyber Monday, Black Friday hits, and I'm like trying to be part of that. And then like after that, like no one cares about you because like Christmas cards are done. They're shopping for their family. Like I'm a luxury service. Like at that point, no one needs it. And they're not going to need it again probably till like March. So I'm in like my quote unquote low season. It's also the same way in the summer. It's really hot where we live. Like as far as personal photography goes, like commercial photography, that just depends on businesses. But even still, like at the end of the year, they're done with their budgets. Like it's not happening. It's the holidays. So I get like real like, man, like, I don't know. It's just no one wants to hire me. Like everything sucks. And I could use that time to do digital products, to make more content, like to do blog posts, to podcasts, whatever. But because you're already so low, you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So you just sit around and put it off. And then a month goes by and you're like, oh. So like just the other day, I updated the link in my bio and it had like a freaking Cyber Weekend code in it. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't checked this in a month. Like, because I used to, be on it every day. I'd blog like every week. I'd have a podcast every week. But it's like, once you get, it's like the momentum. Once you're doing it, it's easy to keep doing it. It's hard to like get back into it. So I'm kind of finally trying to do that.
Right. Okay, so since you're so tied to your product as so directly, and I think I've heard you mention it a few times that you like enjoyed doing videos and stuff when you were younger and things like that. How do you get to a place, or maybe it's natural, I don't know, but how do you put yourself out there all the time?
It's exhausting. I can't think. It's so weird. I think about it all the time, but I also have to like not think about it. So like I said, like I make my workshops, I don't want to watch it. I make a podcast, I don't want to listen to it. When I make like a YouTube video, which I don't do very often, I'd like to do more of, I might watch it a couple times after I post it, but then that's it. Like I won't watch it again for a long time. So when you put yourself out there all the time, it opens up the door of like your subconscious to be like, you shouldn't have done that, or that was dumb, or you look stupid, or really, like, what were you thinking? Like, why would anyone listen to you? Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, this is stupid. You should delete it. Yeah. So, and it's already hard enough to get to the point to, like, put it out there. So I just put myself out there all the time and just don't look back. And there's probably, I look like a meth addict sometimes in my Instagram stories, like, whatever, but you just kind of have to do it. And I hope it's been helpful for anyone because I get lots of responses from things I put out there of people being like, oh, like, I'm glad you feel that way about that thing, or I can relate. So the fact that people are responding to me makes me think that it's helpful, but it's still hard to do because I'm just like, I don't want to put myself out there all the time. Like, I just want you to like my work. Like, I don't want you to like me, but then everyone wants to be liked. So it's a hard thing, especially with social media.
Right. What have you felt like you've gotten better at it, like in the past couple of years, or?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm speaking at a thing tomorrow. I do a lot more like public speaking stuff now. It's still hard though because I'm like, I've given this presentation before already, like multiple times, but I'm already like, do I even know what I'm talking about? Are they even going to listen to me? Do they even take me seriously? What should I wear? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to show up and no one cares. Like, what if no one's there? Like, I'm already going through all that, and I've done this like multiple times. So it gets easier, but it just never really fully goes away. Even just talking right now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm rambling. Are they even going to like listen to what I'm saying? Like, should I just like stop and leave? Like, so it's always that imposter syndrome that you're fighting with, but it does get easier. And like someone once asked me, like, how do you just like, because back in the day of like Snapchat, which I don't really use Snapchat anymore, but talking on your stories on Snapchat was like a weird thing at first. People were doing it, and I was like, who do these people think they are? Right. Just talking to their phone, that's stupid. But someone wants to ask me, like, how do you just talk on your Snapchat? And I was like, I just started one day, and then people started responding to me, and that made me realize, okay, even if one person listened and responded, that was validation that, like, this was a conversation. Cool. So I'll just keep doing it. And then you just get easier, or it gets easier, you get better at it. And then the podcast, having a podcast, I'm sure, as you know, makes it really easy to talk to anybody. Now I can't even go to Walmart without asking the cashier, like, what's your biggest, like, resolution for this year? Like, I'm just, like, asking people interview questions all the time because am just in that talkative nature now. So
nice. I'm still working on that. I'm still working on trying to. My mom is one of those people that never meets a stranger, and she'll like find out about somebody's background while she's in line at Walmart or something like that. And so, and as I've gotten older and more in the business type, I like see the value in networking. Networking is a cliche word, but actually talking with people and trying to find out more about them and things like that. So I'm still working on trying to do that in real life. But
yeah, networking is a real thing, and I don't know. You always hear like it's all about who you know, but it really is.
Right.
And I found your DM the other day. I don't check my DMs,
right?
And people, I'm sure, probably think that I'm like some like raging like asshole or something, but I just don't check them. It's just I didn't check them for a while, and then it snowballed, and then I got more, and then now I can't. Like I just can't. There's like 400 or 500. I can't do it. Like, and it's like little things. But I was checking the other day because I was like, I wonder how many are in here now. Like I can't do all this. And there was one person that asked me like, how'd you get the connections you have? And
interesting.
I didn't even answer because I just want to be like, I don't know, like just talking to people, but also like, are you asking me like if I can give you my connect? It was just a weird question. I was kind of like, I don't know. You just do your thing every day and be nice to everyone. And from there, things happen. It's there's no like science to it. There's no formula. It's not, you can't just email people and be like, I want to know who you are. And that's my biggest pet peeve is people who just like want to ask, like, can I pick your brain and go get coffee? And I'm like, I don't know who you are. I don't even get coffee with my boyfriend. Like, who, like, it's so.
They should start a podcast if they want to talk to you.
Well, and I try to be nice, but it's like time is valuable and connections are valuable. And like, there's no easy way you get them. It's just kind of like what happens throughout time, but you're not going to get it unless you start putting yourself out there. So, I mean, I can't give you all the knowledge I have because it took me all this time to get it and these connections. So networking's so real, and you're not going to have it unless you go out and do it. Right. It's like my biggest like preaching thing.
Cool. That's great. Also, have you got 10,000 followers yet?
No, I just put the swipe up link.
Right. I heard you talking about it.
I literally don't.
If you're listening, go follow Jordan on Instagram right now.
And I'm so against bots. Like I would never, but like part of me is like, can I just like pay for the last, like I just want the link thing. That's all I care about.
Yeah. I don't know how they.
Why is that a feature?
What would be great is if they let you just like, I mean, you even pay like $400 just to have it.
I would pay. I just want a link.
I've heard
because
multiple
that
people
will
say
change.
That. You would think starting businesses would pay that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, for sure.
All I want to do is link to my own shit.
They can make some more work. I mean,
like instead of link in bio and have to go Squarespace and update my link in bio, because I made my own link in bio page because I was tired of like changing it all the time.
And because so you could be on brand.
On brand, but also because like I tried the Linktree thing once, and Linktree was down for like a whole weekend once, and I was like, so I'm not getting photography business because your website is down. So no, I'm just going to use my own website now. Thanks. So I just want people to swipe up. If I want to be talking about this podcast right now in my story, I want you to be able to swipe up and listen to it.
Right.
I don't want you to link in bio because no one does it. I feel like I'm losing out on sales for things. I could do affiliate links. People would just be so much more in the moment, ready and willing to swipe up to do whatever you're trying to link to.
I wonder where they came how they came up with 10,000.
So do you know how close you are?
I'm like 9,100. Like I'm in the 9,000s, but
super close.
You're so popular.
So close.
I'm not. Though.
How many followers do you have, Carl?
I don't know, 1,000.
I have 350. So.
Well.
I followed you today. So
I know, one more follower.
There you go.
Appreciate it. Holler. Yeah, I thought that was pretty hilarious. I messaged her on Instagram first and asked, I was like, hey, you want to be on the podcast, whatever? And then I went back and looked at your profile again and saw in her profile, it's like, don't DM me. I don't check DMs.
I have to put it in there because I think people think I'm like fancy and don't answer. I just can't do it.
Too many.
It's
totally
overwhelming.
I
don't mean that like from a pretentious, like everyone wants to DM, but it's like anyone who responds to a story with an emoji, anything, they're all in there, and I'm like, I can't do this. And some of them are really deep questions that I don't want to type on my phone. I want to go sit on the computer and like email me, and I'll answer your question. But if it's just like, oh, what kind of gear do you have? I have a website thing for that. Oh, what is it? I have a podcast for that. Like if you follow me, like do your research. I have answered probably all your questions and all the content I've put out there over the years. And if it's not that, then just email me, you know?
Right on. Speaking of content, how did you come up with the bathroom photos stuff?
Oh, man. So I was in Memphis in 2015 working with the photographer I was working for. And she had a book of, so this is Jen Oken. I never say her name because I never know if she wants me to, because I talk so much crap about weddings. I don't want to make her brand sound like it's bad because it's not. She's a great wedding photographer. But so she had published a book about blues photography, and so I went with her to Beale Street to release the book during a blues thing.
That's awesome.
A blues festival, an international blues festival. And so we were on Beale Street a lot, and just all the bathrooms in Beale Street, of all like it's kind of like Bourbon Street in a way, but like a little less shady, I guess. But all the bars are like real quirky and colorful and just kind of seedy. And so all the bathrooms were just like bizarre. Like, I don't know, they'd be like bright green walls with like graffiti all over the mirror. Like,
nice.
Just weird stuff. So I just kind of started taking pictures of it. And at that time, I wasn't really taking my Instagram super seriously. I was kind of just like posting stuff that it was still photography oriented because I'm a photographer, but it wasn't like business, you know? So I was just posting pictures. And I remember being like, oh, here's another picture of like me in a bathroom, like so stupid. But then it became really weird that I started like going into bathrooms and matching what, like whatever I was wearing would always match like whatever bathroom I was in. It was kind of weird. So I started documenting it because I was like, this is a cool like color story, like a color theory. And at some point I just made a hashtag for it so I could like keep them all together. And then it kind of just grew from there. So I made a book in 2016, I think, maybe, and I really need to make volume 2, but I'm still trying to figure out a better way to self-publish that doesn't cost so much for the consumer and pays me more, because right now my book's like $40 and I only make $5 off of it.
Wow.
And that's way too expensive for the consumer. I don't want it to be that high.
What did you do that through?
Self-publishing with Blurb. It's a website that in college I took a bookmaking class, and so I published a couple books in college through this class, and the quality of the website's great. Like Blurb books are great. You should still make them. Anyone can make them. I made one for my mom for Christmas about our France photos from our trip we took. Great quality. It's very easy. You can do it, and it's on demand. So if you want to print one, you print one.
That's good.
But
they take all your money.
If I'm trying to sell a bunch of them or sell them at all, it's like $40 to print, and you can dictate your markup for how much you want to make. Well, I would obviously want to make more than $5, but I can't stomach selling you a book for like $50 for me to make $10 off of it. It's just stupid. So right now it's on Amazon. It's cool because the website, you can like integrate everything to Amazon and they sell it, and people have ordered it and bought it, but I feel so bad it's so expensive. There's not anything I can do. So I've held off on making volume 2 because I want to figure out a better way to do that. So I don't know if I need to get like an actual publisher, and because if you buy them in bulk, it's cheaper, but then I have like 1,000 books laying around, you know? So I don't know, because I'd love to make more books. Like I made this book about France for my mom, and I would love to like make that like a public thing because it's like all these travel photos, but I don't know the best way for both consumer and publisher to do
Don't ask
that.
me, I have no idea. I do not know. So you went to, speaking of traveling, you went to Paris or France. Was it Paris?
Yeah.
Was it other places too?
France,
in France?
Yeah. My mom's mom is French.
Oh, nice. Okay.
She currently has dementia. She lives in Louisiana. Like, she doesn't know what's going on. But her brother still lives in France, and his wife was sick with cancer. And so my mom because it's my mom's family. So they would go like every summer. I've been once when I was a baby and once like 6 or 7 years ago. My mom was like, hey, your great aunt isn't doing well. Like, we need to go visit her like before something happens. Well, so my mom, my aunt, and I went, and it was very last minute. It was like the week before. They asked if I wanted to go with them, and I was like, this was the month I only made $87 or whatever.
Dang.
So I was like, this is not the best time for me, but it's also like the best time for me because at the same time I have no work going on, but I have no money. So it was rough. It was very last minute. I went with them, and my great aunt actually passed away the day that we got to France. So we never got to see her, but then we had to rearrange our schedule, go to the funeral. And so they live in the countryside in the middle of nowhere, like no air conditioning, the whole 9 yards. Like chickens in the backyard, like laying the eggs, the whole thing. So we went and stayed with family for a couple of days, and we drove. My mom rented a car, and we drove to Paris and did some stuff. So It was a good trip. It was 14 days, but people are like, "Oh, your vacation looked so good." And I'm like, "There's a difference between a vacation and a trip. This was a trip.
Yeah,
we did a lot of fun stuff, but it was very involved. It was a very involved trip."
I was gonna ask you. About it, and then and like any other traveling you've done or whatever. But I wasn't expecting it was a serious trip that you went on.
Yeah, and so like on Instagram, of course, I'm posting like, look at the Eiffel Tower, look at me with my like cool shoes, like. But it was very much like a family get together. I went to a French funeral. The whole mass was in French. Like, I can understand some. I don't speak very much. No one in the countryside speaks English, so it's just like I was very much a part of these family situations, and it was cool to go. No, I don't want to say cool to go to. It was a funeral, but you know what I mean. It was a cool experience to be a part of. But it definitely wasn't like staying at the Ritz-Carlton, like
for sure,
eating bonbons, like lounging by the pool. It was 109 degrees, no air conditioning. It was the hottest summer they've ever had.
Dang.
No one has AC in France because like they don't need it. So everyone was like freaking out. So we were touring chateaus, and like it's literally like 110 degrees inside.
Wow.
And no one wears deodorant there.
Wow.
So that was rough. So I don't want to like harp on it. It was like a bad trip because it wasn't. It was just, it was very overwhelming, lots happening.
Right. So what's your opinion on that subject then, by the way, since you're very involved in social media and you put yourself out there all the time, what's your opinion on social media you versus real life you, and how that, like, does it affect you at all? Do you, do you get caught up in looking at other people's like social media lives? And well, you follow the Kardashians, so I guess you have to get wrapped up in that somewhat.
I do, but I also watch the Kardashians, and if Kim's crying, she ain't looking so cute. You know what I mean? So like they still show themselves.
Yeah.
But I would say my Instagram feed is my social media me, and my Instagram stories is me.
Okay.
I mean, I share a lot of stuff. Like, I mean, there's obviously stuff I don't share, but I don't think I'm what's it called? Intentionally trying to be someone else on the internet at all.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be like, I always think about like, I edit my photos so they look their best. I put on makeup so I look my best. Like my social media is just like the quote unquote best branded representation of my life, but it's still my life. Like it's not like I'm faking things. Like I know people who their social media is completely different than their life, and I don't want it to be like that at all. Like it's very much just like a curated lens of what I do.
Got it. I also wanted to ask you about your awesome news that you just found out about.
Awesome news.
Yes, that's happening Monday.
Any
so
games
scared. I'm so scared.
Is there something special happening Monday?
I'm scared to photograph the championship because I'm not, the imposter syndrome, I'm not very good at sports photography. I want to get better,
That's
but
not true.
I was not prepared to do a national championship this soon.
That's unbelievable. So how did you get it?
I was chilling in my car.
Nice.
And
they reached out.
Do you know Mark Clements? He works for 225. He's great. He does like their digital content stuff, but he's a sports guy and he does a lot of the sports writing for 225. And he texted me and was like, "Are you free to shoot the championship?" And I was like,
crazy.
"What?" This was like last week. I was like, "Yeah," because I really didn't even cross my mind that was a thing. Because I only shoot for 225 like 1 or 2 games a season. Because it's not like the Advocate. They don't need the photos tomorrow. It's not about like that play. It's very much like get some nice photos. We'll use them next year for the season to hype up the season. Yeah. Kind of like abstract like LSU things. So I still shoot the game, but it's more about like magazine stuff is different than newspaper stuff, you know?
Right.
It's not urgent. Like they don't need the photos that day. It's very much like just get nice photos. So I only shoot a couple of games, and so it's hard for me to feel like I'm getting better because I don't shoot every game.
Right.
So
not have that much practice.
And there's really nothing you can practice on. I have to rent this giant lens. I don't rent that for fun. Like it costs like $200 to rent.
Dang.
So you have it for like that night, and what are you going to practice on? There's no one else running around as fast. Like the same situation with the band and the field and the way it is. And you can only kneel here and whatever. So there's nothing else you can do to really emulate that unless you go shoot like a high school game or something, I guess. But so I feel like as soon as I feel like I'm getting good, like the game ends, and then I wait like a year and do it again. So I have already shot my games this season. Like I've been milking my photos on social media, been like, hey,
they're
happy,
awesome. Go
Tigers, thanks. But I'm like at, Fred's or something, like just posting the picture because I've already done my work. Like I'm not at every game. Someone wants to ask me like, oh, so you travel with the team? You shoot every game? I was like, no. I only shoot a couple, and half the time I don't know what's going on. I'm just shooting the best I can, you know? So I was just chilling. I had no idea this was even an option. I didn't even at all think that I'd be going. I was like, I'll probably go to Zippy's, like watch it, get some margaritas, like bring my dog. I don't know. And he texted me, was like, "Are you free?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he was like, "Okay, I'm applying for you. They need your driver's license number." I was like, "Okay." And then the next day he sent me a screenshot like with confirmation. And I was like, "Okay, cool." So now what? So I had to like quickly rent a lens. It came in yesterday.
What kind of lens?
I'm using a 120 to 300
Is it like
millimeter.
One of those that's like 3 feet long?
It's long, yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, it's still not as big as the ones that like I don't know if you know Chris Parent. He's like the main LSU photographer. He's amazing. He's like the god of sports photography. He and a lot of the other guys, Gus Stark and a lot of these people, they use like really big, like 400 millimeter lenses where like the aperture's like as big as my head. And they're massive. This is it's a step below that because those lenses cost so much, and even just to rent one for the week, like I essentially don't get paid at this point. Like because I would rather have good photos, so I use like what I get paid to like rent this lens.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So it's very much like, because I don't want to go out there and get crappy photos, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a waste of time to be on the field if you don't have a lens that big because you can't see anything. Like,
so they need to pay you more, is what you're saying? 225 pay
well,
more.
All photographers want more money all the time.
Of course.
But no, they've been great and like all that. So what?
Oh, I was gonna.
Oh, sorry. It's like you're like tipping away. You're like getting a taxi over here.
I was curious though. So when you go and shoot the national championship game for 225, or every picture that you shoot property of 225?
My contract.
How does that work? Just
it's
can
not.
You tell?
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about the contract. I don't actually know. I'm not good with legal stuff.
No one listens to this podcast.
But no, it's not. It's not property of. Like I retain the copyrights, but they have exclusivity to use whatever they like out of them, and however many times, because they also, it's like Business Report and Register 225, it's all the same company. So like if InRegister wants to pull a photo I shot for 225, they can. And they can keep using it. I just get paid the one time, but they're still my copyright. So I feel like there's an exclusivity clause in there, something about like if they used it in their magazine, I can't use it in another magazine or sell it to anyone else without like getting permission. But they're still my copyright, which is great because a lot of times you get swindled into signing things like it's like work for hire where you sign away your rights, and that's never fun.
Yeah, well, I was just curious. I don't know how the business works. I was just curious if they pulled the ones they wanted and there was another one that they didn't really want, somebody else did, could they buy it? Or
not another publication, I don't believe. Unless I think I have to get like written permission.
Got you.
But also there's a lot of weird rules with the football stuff that I'm not super clear on. The players
stuff.
I can't give any players photos. They always message me like, "You got that photo of me?" I can't talk to them. I can't give them a photo. It's considered giving a gift.
Right.
I don't know about once I graduate. I think it's fine. Like I went to high school with a guy who was on the team, and he was always like, "Hey, like give me the photos." Like he would see me. I'm like, I can't give you the photos. So after the day after he graduated, he messaged me. He was like, "Give me those photos." So I sent him a couple. But
and a bill.
Well, at that point, I'm like, I don't even, and they're not even great photos at this point, but I don't know all the rules with the NCAA stuff, so I tread lightly with all that.
I figured it was very like messy.
It kind of is. Well, it is, and I work for myself, so I do the best I can to understand these things, and I just try to stay on the safe end of things. Because I'm the little man in all of the situations that could arise with the university or NCAA or 225 or whoever. So I typically just like make sure they let me post. If I can at least post and put in my portfolio, that's half of what I want anyways, like at that point. Because that's like an investment in yourself almost. Like maybe I'm not getting paid that much to do it, but like if I get a super cool photo, that might get me the next job that might be the thing, you know?
Especially LSU this year.
Yeah, so as long as I have like the rights to my photos and I can like use them to promote my own work, then that's usually what I care about the most.
I did have written down licensing. Is that, so can you explain like, is that licensing or is there some, have you sold photos and then like you just get a check in the mail later on and stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's also kind of the Wild West. I don't know if it's the Wild West because I'm just dumb or if it's the Wild West because that's just how it is. Either way, it's not what they teach you in art school. Like I'm learning it every day as I go because I don't really know. And there's not a whole lot of commercial photographers in Baton Rouge that do the same scope of work I do. Like I feel like I'm kind of in this weird in between where I'm not like old and established and like doing real estate and architecture and whatever, but I'm also not like shooting weddings. I'm kind of in the middle where I'm doing commercial work, but I'm also like doing publication editorial. So I don't really know who to ask about these things. And if you Google anything, the numbers you would see, like the Baton Rouge market must just be really cheap, I guess, because some of the stuff that it says I should be charging would never fly here because it's like $2,000 for like one photo, and it's like okay, that's usually everyone's like full budget, you know. So licensing, the best way I can explain it is that like if you wrote a song, like Disney asked you to write a song, you write the song. They pay you to write that song, but they don't always necessarily. Maybe Disney because they're huge, but if you go with this for an example, they don't own the song. You still wrote the song. So if you want to go buy this song on iTunes for 99 cents, that's not your song. You bought the song for 99 cents. Like you can't just go play it in your TV commercial for your company because you bought it for 99 cents. You have to like contact the artist and get, licensing for using it for that way because it's, it's not the same. So I kind of think about it that way with photos. It's like maybe you paid me to take these photos, but like you didn't pay me to use them to make money off of them. You paid me for my time to do it, to edit it, to give you the photos. But you didn't pay me to use them for a billboard or for your magazine or whatever. So
for like commercial work, you do. So you set that up in the contract beforehand.
Yes, and it's different with every person. Like I wish it could just be like this is my price. It never goes that way. But like if I work with a company, depending on what they want to use them for, if you just want to put them on Facebook, that's going to be way cheaper than if you want to make an album cover with them and make t-shirts, sell 500 t-shirts and like whatever. They think about the Beatles Abbey Road image. Like you never know what might be like an iconic image or like the Nike logo. Like you never know. You might get paid $50 to do it, but like you don't know 30 years from now if it's like the most famous thing in the world. You should have been paid more.
I think I heard the guy that made the Chick-fil-A logo did it for like $200 or something.
I think that's the Nike logo. It was something really cheap, and then I think finally they were able to negotiate for him to get money. I could be making that up, but it's those situations where you have to think about it now. Like it might not be a big deal now, but you don't know the band you shot or Joe Burrow or whoever. Which I can't license his photos, but you know what I'm saying. That he might be the next whatever. So licensing is tricky because people are very turned off by it. Like companies are like, wait, so I have to pay you to do it and then I have to pay again? And then I have to renew the license. It's like, but it's just how it works.
So did they send you terms? Do you send them terms? Do you have a lawyer? Like how do you come up with all the nitty-gritty?
So far, I've always just sent my own terms and negotiated from there. And like I said, creatives, we always undercharge anyway. So I just go under the guise of like, I'm doing this, but there's a good chance I'm probably already getting paid too little, but at least it's something. So I just work with it and we go from there. Maybe that's not the best way to think about it. But, but like, for instance, I did a blog post about South by Southwest from like 2 years ago. And I put it on my website, just photos of random stuff. And this magazine in Texas, it's like a paid magazine, contacted me like 2 months ago and was like, can we pay to use this photo in our magazine?
Sweet.
But they would have never seen it had I not put it in a blog post 2 years ago. So stuff like that happens. And typically that's like the etiquette. It's like you're supposed to ask to use a photo. People don't know that.
Of course.
Or they'll just like use it and then credit you.
Yeah.
And I don't really have the balls to like tear someone down for doing that. Like there's been tons of things that I've been walked all over. They've used it, whatever.
Yeah.
But if someone wants to ask me that, yes, like I'm going to license this to you because that's how this is supposed to work. And I'm trying to be like industry standard with everything I do. But a lot of companies don't realize that's a thing. So I just try to think of it too. Like if you're like a event rental company, like, so it costs X amount of dollars to make the tent, but you still have to have someone pay you per day to use it. It's like the same kind of concept.
Gotcha.
It's like, so people think that like I paid you to do this stuff and now it's mine. I'm like, no, I still made it. Like it's mine, but like you can pay to use it for, your album
to make more
or whatever.
money.
Yeah.
Right.
And I haven't done anything major licensing wise. Like I know when I worked with LSU on some photos for a big campaign they did, like they wanted in their contract that it would be like basically property of them. And the
Did you say yes?
But the rate they paid me was okay.
Justified it.
It's one of those things where I'm okay with that. And as long as I can still use it on my website, like, I don't care what you do with that at this point. Like, so that's where it gets kind of tricky. You just want to make sure, like, it's at least a good rate or, like, a good reason. Because you have to think about, like, those photos were, like, random headshots of people. I don't think I'm going to need to sell them to anyone else down the road.
Right. Yeah.
But if it's, like, some really amazing shot of something kind of ambiguous or generic or a famous person, you want to hold those rights yourself. Unless someone wants to pay you a lot of money, because you don't know what you might be able to license. You can keep licensing it,
Yeah,
so it's
sure.
kind of like, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes
I'm not
sense.
very good at like.
It's like a whole
talk,
confusing world. I think maybe
it is, and it's a lot of just throwing numbers and seeing what sticks.
Right.
It's a lot. Like I don't know what you're supposed to be charging. I'm just doing what I've seen been done and done before, and going off of that every time.
Right.
So.
So it's 8:00. Are you still okay to stay?
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay.
I just need to do some self-tanner when I get home.
Right.
It's really important. I have to shave my legs.
Priority.
Got it. Girl stuff.
Really important.
So you mentioned Baton Rouge has cheap prices. Baton Rouge is cheap. I think that's what did you say? I think you said Baton Rouge is cheap, and all the people in Baton Rouge are cheap. Is that what you said?
Well, I only know from my industry.
I'm joking.
So I don't know. Maybe for other things, weddings, they're obviously not. Like if I was in the wedding industry, this is the place to be. Like the South in weddings,
right?
I'm in the wrong place for commercial work.
Be a wedding photographer or own an old plantation, maybe, and then you would make a lot of money off weddings. So you were not born here, right?
I was born in Phoenix.
Okay, and then were you in Lake Charles?
Yeah, my family's from Lake Charles. So they wanted to move back to Lake Charles when I started high school. So I was born in Phoenix, but I've been in Louisiana since like 9th grade.
Okay, so that leads me to my question. You came here for LSU. Why are you still in Baton Rouge?
I don't really know, and I know that's not the answer people want to hear. I'm not like a Baton Rouge like hater, but I'm also not like, oh my God, like love it, gonna be here forever. Like I don't feel like this is my home or my end place at all, and never have. It's one of those things where I truly blinked and it's been 5 years since I graduated. Going on 6 in August, which is bizarre to me because I'm at that point now where like I've lived in Baton Rouge longer than I was in college, which was longer than I was in high school in Lake Charles. But I still grew up in Phoenix for 14 years. So I'm like nearing that point where it's almost half and half of my life of where I've lived. And I don't know. I like Louisiana, but I just really never thought I would be here. And it just kind of, I graduated and just got to working and started meeting people and truly just blinked. And now I'm like, wait, is it really 2020? Like,
yeah.
I went to college in 2010. Like, it's been 10 years. Like, what happened? So I don't see myself living here long term at all. But that's also what I thought 5 years ago. Yeah. And so I've been here half a decade now. So I don't know.
I do.
Or no, like almost a decade.
I think it may just be because I've been here my whole life. But and the other people that I know that have been here their whole life, we're kind of always like, why do people come to Baton Rouge? Why do people like that aren't from here live here? LSU. Especially New Orleans is so close. I know LSU is a huge thing, but I know you're super involved. You go to a lot of like mid-city events, and you're a lot more involved in the Baton Rouge culture than I am. How do you feel like Baton Rouge compares in that aspect to New Orleans or Lake Charles?
Well, I don't. It's weird because this is the only place in my like adult, I guess, coherent days that I've lived long enough to know. Yep. When I was in high school, I was in Westlake, Louisiana, which is a small town outside Lake Charles. We were having like bonfires and like driving to like Burger King. Like, I don't know what was going on in Lake Charles in like the young adult community. Now, my friends that still live there, it's like booming. They're having a great time. But I also don't live there, and I'm not part of it. I didn't live there when that was part of my life. Same with New Orleans. I'm there all the time, but I don't live there. I don't know like the circles there. So Baton Rouge is all I really have to go off of. And I feel like we have like an unusually tight-knit creative community here for kind of a small town. I consider Baton Rouge to be like a little big town.
Little big town.
Like it's not, it's weird because it's really not that big, but it's also the capital, so it's kind of a big deal.
And it's like super spread out.
But like, I can't go anywhere without running into someone, and I don't mean that to be like, I know everyone, but like I truly just can't. Like I was at the coffee shop yesterday, ran into 2 people. I was there for an hour. It didn't matter. It was like noon on like a weekday. It just, you never know. And so I don't know if that speaks to like what I do for a living and how I just meet lots of people, or if it's truly just like we all just run in the same circles everywhere. But it definitely has a growing young professional population, I feel like. I don't think it's where it needs to be, but it's not like nothing. That's for sure. If it was nothing, I would have left a long time ago.
Right.
It wouldn't have worked.
So what's like some cities that you could see yourself living in? Some of your favorites.
For what I do, feel like I need to live anywhere that's bigger than what Baton Rouge is. Like like I need more businesses to work with more
New
people.
Orleans?
New Orleans, yeah, but even bigger than that probably. I'm thinking like Atlanta, like Chicago, New York, LA, something. And that sounds so cliche because you go anywhere like that and you have like 100 people just like you doing the same thing. But I truly feel like if I want to work more with like the music industry and like bigger companies doing commercial work, it just needs to be a bigger city naturally.
Pool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. New Orleans is bigger, definitely, but not that much bigger. I feel like I also do so much work there now. I don't know how much would change if I moved there. I'd still probably be in Baton Rouge doing the same amount of work I am, you know? So
yeah.
I don't know. Cool. I love Atlanta, though. I'm kind of obsessed with it.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't like it. I've been to Atlanta like quite a few times. I don't really particularly love it.
I like Austin,
guess.
too, but
the
Austin's
traffic's
like
really
so
bad.
hip
Of course, the traffic in Austin's really bad, too.
Yeah.
I do love
traffic
Austin.
here is really bad.
It is, you're right.
Honestly, I'm like, if traffic's... So when we went to LA to visit my friend a year or two ago, I was like, traffic's so bad, but like, you'd expect it because it's so big and it's LA. Traffic in Baton Rouge is bad, but it shouldn't be because it's not. So I'm at the stage where I'm like, if I'm going to sit in traffic in Baton Rouge, I might as well sit in traffic like in LA or something.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
God, it is terrible. Random question, when you went to Europe, I'm assuming since you had a bunch of like family things, y'all got a car and like drove around. Me and my wife went to Europe earlier this year and we rented a car. And before we went, I hated traffic circles, but after being over there, I love traffic circles. And I feel like if we had traffic circles and not red lights, we might have a few more crashes, but traffic would flow so much better.
I think it would help with the flow, but I also don't trust anyone here.
That's true. People over there
the traffic
are much
circles at
better
Town
drivers.
Center are like death trap. When I just try to go to Orange Theory, like I'm just like, Jesus, are we all gonna like? It's like 10 a.m. Like, why are you trying to like crash into my car?
Yeah.
So if they can't even handle that, then I worry. But the driving in Europe is like another level of crazy.
It is. They're much better drivers than Baton Rouge. I think I actually saw a study that objectively said Baton Rouge was one of the top 5 worst drivers. I think my wife said that.
I hope I'm not included in that, but
Hopefully
I guess
not.
by default
consider
we probably
myself a good driver, a very good driver. But I have gotten quite a few speeding tickets recently. So,
really?
Unfortunately,
I've never gotten one. Knock on wood.
Well, and to be slightly sexist, I think it's because you got pulled over before.
I got pulled over once.
Okay, but you didn't get a ticket.
Didn't get a ticket. I should have slowed down.
I am very sexist in this particular area because I have never gotten pulled over and not gotten a ticket, and I know tons of ladies who have gotten pulled over and never gotten a ticket.
I've gotten out of a few.
How did you do that?
I'm just a smooth talker, man.
Maybe that's my problem then.
I really don't know. I've gotten the ratio though. I've gotten pulled over many times.
Really?
Like how many?
I drive a lot. Okay.
You do drive a lot. Like how many? Like a dozen?
Probably 4 or 5 times a year.
Oh, okay. That's quite a few.
I've only been pulled over once.
I've been pulled over like 10 times.
I probably drive 30,000 miles a year. But a lot of it's in like rural towns I've never driven through before. So I'll just like run up on a speed trap.
Yeah,
down
that's
the
how
highway.
it happens.
Yeah.
So, but most times I'll talk myself out of it. I mean, probably half the time.
Good for you. I need to get some tips.
Lots of
Those
practice.
cops aren't listening.
Thank y'all.
I was driving down the road like a month ago and listening to my podcast because my wife was listening, not because I'm self-centered.
You're getting research.
I got pulled over, and while I was talking to the cop, he was like, "So what y'all doing?" I said, "Oh, we're just driving. We're up in the country actually, driving wherever, and just listen to a podcast." And then he's like, "Oh, what podcast?" And I said, "Oh, actually, it's my podcast because my wife hasn't heard it yet. We're listening to." He said, "Oh, okay, And then he was like, "You a preacher or something?" And I said, "No, just have a podcast." And then I told him, I was like, "You should check it out. It's called Chase Doesn't Know." And then on the next one, whenever I posted it at the beginning, I was like, "Hey, if you're listening, Trooper Palmer, hit me up. Come be on the podcast." Haven't heard from him. Don't expect to.
Dang it.
But anyways, that'd be pretty legit.
It would be.
Hey, you don't know much about being a trooper, do you?
No, I know zero about being a trooper.
I can hook you up with a trooper.
Other than
I've met a few.
Point the gun and write the ticket. That's all I know about being a trooper.
I don't know anything either about that.
Did you get to meet Post Malone?
No.
How close did you get to him?
Like.
From me to you?
Me to the wall.
That's pretty close.
Which is, for the listeners, 10 feet?
Yeah, or less.
I don't know how to measure with my eyes. Something like that. But I was in a photo pit. He was on the stage. Yeah, he wasn't. I don't usually get to meet the artists very rarely. Sometimes, like, it just depends on how I got hired. If I got hired to, like, shoot that event and that was the person at the event, then, yeah, I get to meet him sometimes. But this was, like, straight up like I was just shooting the concert. Right. He was on the stage. You get to shoot 3 songs and then you move on and move over. But he, sometimes when I shoot for festivals or, like, for the event, I can be on the stage. He was one that specifically, it didn't matter who you were, like you couldn't be on the stage.
That's because he has Adam DeGrosse, right?
Yeah, and he's great.
He always tags at Adam DeGrosse.
He's great. He follows me, but I've never met him.
Adam DeGrosse? Legit.
Never met him.
You should DM him.
Maybe. I don't know.
He would reply.
I didn't know he was following me.
He may have DM'd you. You just don't know.
That's true.
At the end of the year, I got some like some website. I forget what it was. I got an email that was like, your top 9. It's also like your top like notable followers, and it was like him and then like this really popular blogger I follow. And then I don't know if you know Joy the Baker. She's out of New Orleans, but she's like a big time bloggy baker chef blog person. She's really nice. I've actually met her, but she's got a big following. But it was like it showed me those 3 followed me. I was like, what?
Nice.
So Adam, I always liked his work because he does a lot of like really really cool like raw punk looking black and white, like very like raw looking stuff.
So if you were a hired photographer for one music artist, who would it be?
I don't know.
Your dream.
I don't know, because...
Dead or alive, let's say.
Okay, well, if it was alive, like the Beatles.
Okay.
That's my jam.
Half
or
dead.
Maybe Zeppelin, because they'd be more fun to shoot on stage. But the Beatles
Speaking
are
of,
my
you went
thing.
to Greta Van Fleet's concert.
Oh, yeah, they were
insane.
fun. Yeah, that was a situation where I had to sign a contract, and I can't do like anything with my photos.
Really?
I could barely even post them that one time.
I saw you posted like a couple.
And I had to say like it was for the public. It was like in the right. I had to get permission to do it.
Was the concert unbelievable at least?
Yeah, it was great. They were great.
Nice.
That's my brother's favorite band, so that was kind of like a bigger deal for him to have me shoot the concert. Yeah. So no, they were great. Their lighting was great. So that's what I was gonna say is I guess like as much as I love music and shooting music I like, when I'm shooting, I don't care as long as they have good lighting. Like it just needs to. If I was going to shoot someone, they need to have money for a budget to have like a good stage setup because that's what makes the good photos, honestly. And they have to be doing something on stage. Like Elton John, super famous, probably the most famous person I ever photographed. The most boring person to photograph because he sits at his piano, and you get everything you need in 30 seconds, and you're kind of like, well, he's not going to move anymore. So I still have 2 songs left I'm allowed to shoot. So you're kind of just like taking pictures, and that sounds like really spoiled, like brat of me to say. But truly, that's what I mean. Like, I don't care who you are, but if you're doing something cool on stage and you have good production, like that's what I want for photos. So.
Who is the most famous person that you've taken a picture of?
I don't know, because fame is like subjective, I guess, but I would say probably Elton John, maybe. LL Cool J.
That was at
maybe.
Voodoo Fest?
No, that was at the River Center a couple years ago. It was for 225.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Sweet.
He was just randomly playing in Baton Rouge.
Dang.
And I did not think I'd get approved. But it was very cool. Like, I'm so happy I got to do it, but definitely not like my favorite photos or anything. They're kind of just like him. They're just iconic because he's iconic, but they're not like, my photography skill wasn't really put to work in that one. So.
Right.
I don't know. LL Cool J was kind of a big deal, but I don't know who the most famous person is.
You shot in some pretty interesting situations. I remember listening to your podcast about the.
You listening to it too?
I listened to your podcast too.
You're basically
podcast junkie. But the one right after, I think it was right after your Kanye concert. Kanye came to Bethany. Mm-hmm. That was a kind of a crazy day. I remember you talking about that.
Absolutely bonkers.
Has there been like a single shoot that sticks out, like in your career that has been just bonkers like that, or is that it? Is that the one that I just?
That was one of them. Okay, so Cage the Elephant. I photographed them at Voodoo in 2016, and that was. I wasn't shooting for Voodoo at the time. I was shooting just as a press person for like a website. And they were one of the few bands that made you sign an additional contract when you were there, but they let you shoot the whole set, which is very rare. You only ever get to shoot the first 3 songs. That's very industry standard. Some bands will be like, we want you to shoot our last 3 songs or our first 2 songs or our first 15 minutes. Like there's some stuff, but for the most part, it's industry standard to only shoot the first 3. If you get the chance to shoot an entire set, it's usually because you're working for that artist or you're working for the event. Like you have more access, but it's not normal. And he / the band let all the press photographers stay in the pit the entire hour, but we had to sign a contract saying that the photos could only be used for like X, Y, and Z, which is always how it goes. Because it's like, oh, you get these cool photos, but there are always the times that you can't use them. But I was able to post them at least. And that was crazy. I don't know, because for Voodoo, a lot of the artists dress up on stage, and it's still unclear to me if he was dressed up or if he was bleeding. Because, like, he was so crazy on stage. Like, I don't know if he, like, hit him. So he had, like, blood next to his mouth.
Wow.
And I still don't, it was, like, very, like, rock. Which is weird because you listen to their music and it's not, like, that heavy.
Right, yeah.
But in person, they were so energetic. I took, like, that was one of those situations I took, like, probably 10,000 photos in that hour of just them. Because he was just, like, running around, like, jumping, like, going off the speakers, like, jumping in the crowd, like, jumping back, like, throwing the microphone, like, crazy stuff. And for an hour, it was just, like, you didn't want to, like, you pretty much had what you needed. You could have left, but like you were like, what is he going to do next? So you just stayed.
Can't miss it.
So that was a pretty fun one because the photos I got were like really, really cool, but it was just so energetic, and you had to like watch where you were. Like that was one of those situations where he was like jumping off the stage. You didn't know if you were safe, like where you were. It was just craziness. So that was cool. I think he'd be really fun to like. And I say he, like the singer. What's his name? Like Matthew.
I have no idea.
I think it's like Matthew, something like that. But I say he, but it's the band. But the band wasn't really doing much. He was just going crazy.
Going nuts, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That was a fun one.
And bleeding. He was,
yeah,
like,
which
committed.
I'm still not sure if that was like a costume thing or not. Very unclear.
Interesting.
Sold you.
Yeah, right?
What's some of your favorite bands? I share your love of Under Oath and Reliant K. I listen to Under Oath like absolutely weekly for sure.
Yeah, well, I pretty much stick with They're Only Chasing Safety album.
Of course.
On repeat.
Yeah, the new stuff's terrible. It's not terrible, but the old stuff is the best.
Yeah, I love that album. So it's funny. So when I was growing up, I listened to a little bit of everything. Mm. And in high school, I was like MySpace kid, like All Time Low, Mayday Parade, all the emo bands, whatever. But I didn't really listen to anything super heavy. Like A Day to Remember was like as heavy as it got. Mm. And then in college, I was a sorority girl, so I was kind of like, okay, I guess I like Luke Bryan. Like, that's all fun. Like, Eli Young Band, this is great, too. I like everything. I truly do. So, but I went through, like, phases, you know?
Yeah.
And I was an art major, so it was like, okay, Mumford & Sons. We're going to listen to, like, Bon Iver, all this, like, hipster shit. And then I graduated. Well, around graduation, I met my boyfriend, Christian, who used to be in a metalcore band, like, before I met him.
Nice.
And he was like, we were parallels of like all the same everything, but like just the opposite side. So I was the pop punk side, and he was like the Under Oath and you know like
that is
metalcore,
hilarious.
hardcore stuff. So
I went through that with some of my friends in like junior high and high school. We were like doing the exact same thing. So with
and so like we both kind of liked a little bit of the other side, but like we met and then we started kind of like trading iTunes libraries and like going to shows together. And I started photographing the shows and. Then now, like, it's kind of the opposite. Like, he's, like, obsessed with, like... I mean, we still both like everything, but I love, especially with photography, I love to shoot the heavier stuff. It's just so much fun. It's so energetic. It's, like, lots of stuff going on. And he, like, wants to be in a pop punk band. So it's funny because I grew up kind of more on, like, the poppier side of the MySpace stuff. But So I listen to a lot of music from like 2006 to like 2009.
Nice.
I don't really go much past that. I like rap too. Like I love Lil Boozy, Webby, all the Trill Fam stuff. The Baton Rouge rap scene's great. Kevin Gates, all that. But a lot of what I listen to on a daily basis is like The Story So Far, the first Red Jumpsuit Apparatus album, Don't You Fake It.
Great one.
Oh yeah.
I used to hate it when I was like, oh, that music's not good. But now it's like I like it a lot.
It's just so nostalgic. It's so good. I listen to a lot of Casey Musgraves. I love Taylor Swift. I've been like one of her like hardcore like OG fans.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
You like Taylor Swift, girl?
No, I can see that.
Okay.
I mean,
right.
I really don't even like her new stuff that much at all. I just have been like such a fan of her that I'm like, okay, whatever you do, it'll be great. I don't love Beyonce at all. I'm not really into Beyonce. I hate Miley Cyrus.
How dare you talk about Beyonce?
That's a strong word.
You can't get into it. But a lot of the stuff I listen to on a daily basis is like the Beatles, Under Oath, Knuckle Puck, Story So Far, Midday Parade, all the old Midday Parade stuff.
Love it.
Oh my God, Linkin Park Meteora. It's my like 5th grade jam, but it just never gets old.
Did you cry whenever the guy
I didn't
died?
cry, but it was the first time that a celebrity death really affected me.
Right.
Like more so than like people I've actually
I actually
known.
was affected by
bizarre.
that too. Yeah.
And I only listen to Meteora and Hybrid Theory. I don't listen to like really anything else that they've done, and that's like just a fraction of all their stuff. But for some reason, it really, really affected me. It was bizarre because like the Soundgarden guy died the week before or the year before.
I think they were like good friends too. I think.
Yeah. Perhaps. Well, there's some conspiracy theories about them, and like they both knew something, and that's why it wasn't really suicide. But I'm not going to get into that.
We can talk about conspiracy theories if you want.
I'm afraid to like say things because
like inaccurate or
because I listen to so much stuff that like part of it soaks in, but the rest of it just kind of falls out, and I don't know if I'm making things up at that point.
So do you spend a lot of time reading conspiracy theories and watching videos and stuff?
Reading and listening, and I subscribe for an entertainment lawyer podcast on Patreon.
Wow,
it's like $5 a month. It's a really good deal.
Entertainment lawyer podcast.
Yeah,
he like makes videos.
He's anonymous. And he knows everything, and it's always true. Like he'll say, it's like blinds, like celebrity blinds.
No.
So it's like a style of gossip column stuff where it's like to avoid slander, they'll be like, this A-lister married to a B-list reality star did this, this, and this. And like they won't say the name and people guess. But then like they'll reveal who it is after it's safe to. And he's always right. And it's crazy. And so he has a podcast and he talks about all kinds of stuff. And it's all celebrity related.
And he's anonymous too.
Yeah, he's not. Because if he wasn't, he'd be like dead by now.
He'd be lawsuited up.
He knew about like Kylie Jenner being pregnant before it all. He knew about like the Harvey Weinstein stuff. He knew about it years ago. He was writing about it for years. Like he knows everything.
So what do you say about Jeffrey Epstein?
Oh, he's okay. I'm not even like. There's like so many podcast episodes in this. I can't even keep up. But he's been talking about him before he's just been. He knows everything, and it all sounds crazy. You're like, there's no way. Like Selena Gomez, like her lupus isn't real. It's cocaine addiction, like all this stuff. And you're like, that sounds crazy. But then like things get revealed, and it comes out in the press, and he was right. And he was right like a day before it came out. And you're like, whoa. So he's got a podcast, and you have to pay $5 a month for it. But it's like he releases like 30 episodes a month. Like it's ridiculous. Wow. It's the best $5 you ever spend. And it's not like interesting. It's no frills. It's just him sitting and talking about things.
But the content is interesting.
It's good. And so he talks about some conspiracy stuff. A lot of stuff he talks about I don't know because I really don't know a lot of celebrities. I don't watch a lot of movies, so I don't know who a lot of the actors and actresses are. But he'll talk about certain things, and it's very interesting just the way Hollywood and everything works.
So what's the name of it?
It's just he's NT Lawyer, ENTY Lawyer. You can go follow him on Instagram. Okay. And you sign up for his podcast there. But his website is called Crazy Days and Nights. And it's just like it's like a gossip blind website, which I never really was into until like a year ago. I started reading it and I was like, this is super fascinating. And then like, I don't even remember a specific example, but one of the things he said, I was like, there's no way. And then it happened. Like I saw it in the news.
That's crazy.
So I was like, oh, the Matt Lauer stuff. Like he knew about the Matt Lauer stuff. And I was like, no, everyone loves Matt Lauer. Like, and then it happened. You're like, oh my God. And he was right. So he's anonymous and he just posts lots of true things. He's just a lawyer. So he just knows things.
I've never heard of this. I'm definitely going to check it out.
It's really interesting. It's kind of a black hole.
So but all of his content is behind the paywall.
No, the website's not. Okay. And some of his podcasts, if you just download Patreon, do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you download that and like go follow him on there, I think there's some that are unlocked, but you have to pay for it. But like I said, he's not super interesting. There's no intro, there's no music, there's no editing. It's just like him straight up
I can appreciate
talking.
That. He's just giving you the substance.
Just talks. And some episodes are like 15 minutes and some episodes are like an hour. And sometimes he has people call in and it's all like anonymous, but he knows his stuff and it's really interesting.
Dang, that's cool. I want to keep you forever, but tell me about getting on the radio.
Oh, Jada Cody?
Yeah.
That was cool. I was at Government Taco one day getting some tacos, and Jay was like, hey, I've been meaning to talk to you.
Nice.
I got bought out by Guarantee. Do you want to be on my radio show every week? And I was like, cool, yeah. And that's basically how it happened. He was like, all right, like, what time do you want to do it? Like, Wednesdays, and it'll be like, you know, little segment, and because you can talk about your podcast on there. I was like, great. So that was one situation where I never realized how starting a podcast would open different doors, because people think if you do something that all of a sudden, like, you're credible. They're like, oh, you have a podcast, you should be on the radio. I'm like, okay, cool.
Right.
Like, I just started this in my house. So
that's awesome.
It's cool. We go live. He's live like every Monday through Friday, like 4:30 to whatever, 4 to 6 or something like that. And I just go on Wednesdays, 4:30 to 5. Yeah.
How's it different from doing a podcast? Is it like more pressure because it's live?
It is,
I don't know. It's
like
it's kind of like
it makes you feel like it's not live because you're just like in a room talking. You kind of forget like people are listening, and then I don't know who's listening. I'm like, is one person listening? And like 20,000 people listening? I have no idea.
So what are you doing for that 30 minutes on Wednesdays? What's your segment?
It's called Do What You Want with Jordan Hefler, and he just like talks about whatever. And the last 2 weeks, it was like Christmas and New Year's, so we didn't do it. And like sometimes he's out of town, so we don't do it. But yesterday I went on, and he wanted to talk about like my favorite photos from 2019. He was like, compile your favorites and post them so we can talk about them. So he usually has a prompt. Like he'll be like, okay, today we're going to talk about like, what did you do this weekend? Or, oh, we're going to talk about shooting the LSU game or whatever.
Yeah.
So he kind of comes up with subjects, but it's, it makes you realize how fast time goes by. Because I feel like between the ads and like little banter and then talking for a second, you're like, oh, it's been 15 minutes, like it's over. And then, so I originally was only a 15-minute segment, and he's kind of just let me stay on for the second part of it since then. So it's kind of like a 30-minute segment, but there's like commercial breaks and stuff, so it's not fully 30 minutes. So it's cool to see how like the back end of that works. I love watching Chuck. He's the guy that does the sound stuff, and I don't know what he's doing, but he's got like Command Central over here, like you basically
sounds neat.
right now.
No, it sounds really cool.
It's cool.
I'm like, I want to come watch.
Yeah, but it's like, it's so low key. It's like just sitting in a room. Like you forget that it's live and people are listening because it's just like two dudes in a room and then you come sit. But I had one person message me on Instagram and follow me and be like, I found you from the radio. Cool. And I was like, oh, so people are listening, because I have no idea. You're just talking and you don't know like where it's going. 107.3.
107.3.
Or on their Facebook or website, they like post.
Yeah, he does a Facebook Live of every single segment, and he's on the radio like every day. So
sweet. I'm gonna check it out.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So how did you do 50 episodes of your podcast last year?
Not well, I guess.
That's like a ton of time and work, and that's basically one a week for a whole year.
That was the goal. I skipped some weeks. I don't know. I started it, I think it was like 2 days ago. It had been exactly a year, because I got something on my Facebook that popped up saying like it's been a year. So I started it in January and was like, I'm going to do one every other week. And then I was like, this is easier than I thought it would be. I'll just do one every week. And for a while, I really had a lot of people and content lined up. So I had like a backlog of like 2 months. So I was like, okay, I'm good. But then it was weird because I was talking about something today that's not going to go live for 2 more months. Yeah. And I didn't like that either. But once I ran out of those backlog episodes, I started to scramble and be like, I'm supposed to have the one up by next week. Like, oh my God. And so I just felt like I kind of let quality slip a little bit, because I was kind of just scrambling to get it out for the sake of getting it out. And I don't do a whole lot of editing. I just throw my intro on it and we talk, and then I export it. There's been a couple I had to edit a little bit, but I don't spend too much time on that. But then I have to do the show notes and like get the SEO up there and like find what we talked about and design a little graphic. And so that takes some time. Yeah. But it's not a huge time commitment. Well, I would say it's not hard, it's just tedious, but it's not like a massive time commitment. It's just like kind of hard to stay on top of it is the thing. So I don't know how it happened, because I haven't made one since like November, and now I'm like, I don't even remember how I did. Like what? It's like one of those things when you do something so much, you're like, hey, and then you stop and you're like, wait.
So how many are you planning to do this year?
I don't know, because I wasn't ever really originally planning on doing seasons. It was just kind of like coming up on the number 50, and I was like, I'm getting burnt out. It's going to be the holidays. Like, I just want to take a break. Let me just get to like a round number, and I'll just call it season 1. So 50 just seemed like a good number. And so there's a couple of mini-sodes in there that I did myself, which I didn't know if that was like successful or not. I could talk more on my own, but I like having a guest. But it's hard to get schedules to line up and to come over to my house and try to make sure, everything works out. And then that I have enough time on the back end to get it up and out with my schedule. of the rest of the stuff I have going on. And like I said, I'm not getting paid anything for it. So it becomes very much like last on my list of things to do. But then I want to stay consistent. So you're trying to like make it happen. But it's like if I have a paid client that needs something before that, then that's what happens. So try to stay consistent the best I could. It fell off a little bit, but.
So you're like, you kind of started it because you thought it'd be fun to do. Mm-hmm. You like enjoyed it, but then kind of got a little burnt out.
Yeah,
just because it's so much.
Yeah, I like you like to talk to people, and I feel like I just had lots of really good conversations with people that I was like, I wish this would have been recorded. Let me just start a podcast. And so I had that idea like a while back, and I bought a mic and let it sit in my closet for a year, and I didn't know like because I was like, I'm okay. Next time I have time, I'll figure it out. And then tomorrow I'll look at it, and I just never like looked at it, and I was like so kind of overwhelmed with like the tech side. Like, is this gonna be hard? Like, do I need to get like a studio? I don't have money or time for that, so I just like put it off, and then eventually I just like figured it out like in an hour, and I was like, this is not that hard.
Right.
You just have to turn it on and talk. So then I was like, well, this is easier than blogging. This is easier than everything else. You just talk.
Yeah.
So once I figured that out, it was easier. It just became like hard with other people and scheduling, and then so I felt like I got a little burnout towards the end. Also because I just want to be more selective with who comes on the podcast, and I don't know how to structure that at all, because I don't know how to tell people like no, because it's do what you want. Like, there's really not that much of a structure. So
I was kind of curious how you decided like who to ask and what, if you had a direction or you just wanted to.
Well, I have a mega list of people I would like to ask, and then people started just asking me to be on it, and then it kept like happening, and then I never really got to finish the list of people I wanted to be on there. So no shade to whoever came on. It's one of those things where like I just kind of got caught up in saying yes to everybody, and it snowballed, and then now I wanted to kind of cut that off and be like, okay, I'm not moving forward until I like interview these 10 people I want to, or whatever. So
who's at the top of your list?
This guy, Matt Crump. He's a photographer, lives in Austin, and
Matt Crump.
I've only met him once. He's like a unicorn, like colorful, crazy photographer.
Not the Matt Crump that I know.
He's kind of like a big photographer influencer guy, but
cool.
I met him. He's really nice, and we text every now and then, and we were supposed to like get a podcast up, and it just never happened. So I'm still very much like wanting him to come on. We'd have to Skype or something. But yeah, I don't know who like my number one person I'd ever want to be on it. Maybe Jeffree Star. He'd be cool.
Jeffree Star. So you watched the YouTube series on him? I watched the Jake Paul one that he did.
See, I didn't watch that because I don't know Jake and Logan Paul well.
Me neither, but like it was fascinating that there was going to be a series about him, and so
was it fascinating?
It was actually really fascinating.
Well, the one with Shane Dawson was incredible. Like I'm like a Jeffree Star like stan now. Like I didn't think. The Shane Dawson did on Jake Paul. Yeah. Oh, that's what I mean. I was talking about the Shane Dawson one did on Jeffree.
On Jeffree, yeah. I have not watched that one, but that one's also fascinating.
Marketing, that like the Kardashian stuff. It's just like Jeffree Star is an actual mogul. Like he's a genius. He's so rich. And he's self-made. Like it's insane, and you don't know that because you're just like he's like a guy that I can't talk right now. He's a guy that reviews makeup, but he's built an empire with his own cosmetics company. It's insane. And he's so transparent on his YouTube that it's like, wow, he's just really just like this dude that is doing the thing.
Just doing his thing.
And the videos with Shane Dawson exposing all that and the process of it, they make a makeup palette together. I don't know if you know how all this goes, but
I do not. I know zero about makeup. Maybe you could inform me a little bit about that too.
Well, Shane Dawson is a big YouTuber.
Right.
Jeffree Star's a big YouTuber, but Shane, Jeffree, I don't really know what his label is. He's a man. He goes by man, but he, obviously wears makeup and has like women's clothing and stuff. So he's got his own thing going on. But Shane is just like a gay man.
Right.
Well, they do this series together, and Shane starts dabbling in wearing makeup because Jeffree's like, I'm a man. I wear makeup. Like, whatever. That's what you do. And they decided to. Well, Shane learns about the business side of things, how much money Jeffree makes, like the operations side, like the cosmetics company, how he's got his own lab, he's bought his own studio, he's doing it all, marketing it, he's got this whole team. He is like head honcho, making $1 billion, has like Lamborghini, can't talk, oh my God, Lamborghini,
Lambos.
Tesla, like, Bugatti, all this stuff.
That's crazy.
He's so rich. He lives like next door to the Kardashians and the Calabasas. He's like on that level, but he's a YouTube star. He's self-made versus all these other actresses and actors who are like Hollywood stars. It's crazy. And so Shane kind of dives into that, learns about it, and then wants to know the process of like, okay, what goes into making makeup? I don't wear makeup. What's it like? And Jeffree's like, well, let's make a palette together and I'll show you. And then they learn about the whole side of like working with brands where Shane's like, as a YouTuber in the past when I work with other brands, I only get paid like this percent. And Jeffrey's like, oh no, like you need to be negotiating this. So it's very business oriented.
Wow.
It's a very interesting, yes.
Sounds like.
And Shane, they make this palette. So it's genius because they're, once again, this is self-made. They're making this on their own platforms. They're controlling it. It's like a TV show essentially, but it's on their own platforms. So they're getting ad pay from YouTube. They're getting sponsorships for the video. Then they're also making a product, but gaining an audience while they're making this product because the audience is like now in on it.
Right.
And so now like here I'm like I want to buy this palette just because I'm watching the process of it being made. I'm fascinated.
Right.
So this palette breaks Shopify's history when it launches.
Dang.
Breaks the historical record for Shopify sales, like breaks all these records. It crashes their websites. Like no one can do anything. Shopify's never crashed before. No one can shop. It makes them like $1 bajillion like the first day. Shane gets like 35% of the cut, so he's about to like faint because he's like, I made this much money. We didn't even like send them out yet.
Dang.
It's all in back order. You still can't get them. I asked for one for Christmas. Like you can't. It's like such high demand, and it's all because they created the hype themselves and like showed you the transparent process. It's so fascinating. Even if you don't care about makeup or anything, as a business person, like it's so interesting. That was a long, like...
That was, that was like 40 levels deeper than I thought it was.
Exactly, because I was like, oh, I'll watch this because it's like, whatever.
Entertainment.
I hear it's good, but it's anyone who's interested in like marketing, like branding. They show you like down to like, okay, the little logo we're going to design for this thing, we're going to stamp it into the palette. No, that color's not right. Like, let's like redo that. Like now the mock-ups of how the palette looks. So it's not even just about makeup. It's about like the business. And they make so much freaking money from it. And then they show you the whole process of it, make a built-in audience, and then like sell out. It's just insane.
Dang.
Now they're so rich.
That sounds insane.
It's crazy.
I might have to watch it.
It's really interesting.
Like 8 hours of video or something?
It's like
8-hour series?
Yeah, I think actually it's like 5 to 8 episodes. I don't remember, but then so you watch that and it ends like recent, like it ended like in the beginning of December or November. Because the launch was in November. So it was very recent. So they're still having to deal with the products and the quality control of everything. But Jeffrey just recently moved into a new mansion, and he shows a video of that, and you're just like, it's the amount of wealth is shocking. It's just, and it's not like in a show-offy way. He's like, 6 years ago, I had like tax debt. I had $500.
That's crazy.
Like now,
he's
like the richest person.
I guess like on one face, like on one side, you look at it and see like a guy in makeup, and there's a million opinions you could have of somebody like that. But then I can 100% appreciate the self-made and all of the thought behind the brand.
It's very aspirational because you're just kind of like, you did this with a camera and YouTube.
Right.
Like you built this.
This is super fascinating.
So now I'm like, I need to get on YouTube, obviously.
Right, of course. Is that why you started making YouTube videos?
Kind of. I need to do more and like put more effort and like time into it because I enjoy doing it. It's just very time consuming and I don't know what to video. But like I said, there's actual idiots out here like just making 6 figures, like vlogging their day and like what kind of smoothie they make. And I'm just like, oh my God, like there's so many opportunities for me to like, not like copy them, but like do something similar, but with what I do and see how that can.
So how do you like come up with creative ideas?
Usually people or someone once told me like if someone asks you the same question 3 times, then you need to make a product or a solution. And I've always kept that in mind. So it's like my workshop, my presets. And if someone asked me 3 times, which it happened multiple times, like, how do you edit your photos? Boom. I knew I needed to create some sort of workshop or product that answered that. People want to know what kind of gear do you use? Like, all these questions about me. I'm like, I'll make a podcast. Now I'll just answer all these things as we go.
Cool.
So for me, it's kind of like, what do people want to see? And so I haven't really made videos that are actually like worth anything lately. I mean, I've kind of just made some fun introductory things. But I will look at what do people ask me the most questions about, and I'll make a thing. And that way, next time someone asks me, I can send them a link.
Right.
And be done with that. So
yeah, that's awesome. I promise, I'm exploiting your time.
Okay.
So what's coming up for you? What are you excited about doing? Besides, of course, Monday's championship game.
That's all on the radar right now. I got some people contacting me. I cannot talk right now. Contacting me. This is what happens when I talk too much.
Are you a podcaster? Or?
I shouldn't be. I don't really stutter, but I mostly just like talk so fast that my words don't keep up, and then I just sound drunk.
I love people that talk fast because it's like people that talk slow are literally the worst. It's like I could have been going like 10
minutes. We have one
ago.
life to live, man. I got shit to do, so I'm gonna talk fast.
Exactly.
No, what was I saying?
What you're looking forward to doing, or what you exciting?
Yeah, pretty much Monday is all I got on the radar.
Love
right
it.
now.
Okay.
I don't have a whole lot.
Are you more short-term vision person, or?
Yeah, and people try to like. I think that's why I stopped. Like I hated weddings and stuff. I don't want to know what am I doing next year on Tuesday, June, whatever. I don't know. Like so, when people try to book me more than like 3-4 weeks out, I get like anxious because I'm like, what if something better comes along? What if I break my leg? Like what? I don't know. Like it just I don't like having stuff on the horizon that far out. But at the same time, you can't ask me something like too short in advance either. Like this actually worked out.
Right. Like asking you to do a podcast the day before.
Before like a shoot. Like if you were like, tomorrow, do a commercial shoot like all day long. Like we have models. I'm like, no, I can't do that. I have to go to Manship that day. Like whatever. I have like a 2 to 4 week window, I feel like, of when I need to know. So right now I have like a girl scheduled for senior pictures in March. And that's like the furthest thing in advance I have.
Cool. Love it.
And a wedding I have to go to in April. So.
And who's the next podcast guest? Do you have it lined up?
Kind of.
Okay.
I don't know for sure if that will be the first episode, but hopefully it'll be an audio engineer.
Nice.
So,
those people are. That. I've been trying to get a friend of mine who. Do you know Contrast Films?
Yeah.
I'm calling him out right now. Jordy, I messaged him. I've known him for a long time, but I've been wanting to get him to come be on my podcast because similar to how I know nothing about photography, I know not much about film production, which Carl does a lot of film production too.
Listen to that.
But I want to ask him like all of the and he's done like a lot of Vivo music videos and like film stuff and all this like big time whatever.
Yeah.
And so I would love to talk to him.
Please talk to him so I can listen to that.
Audio engineers and filmmakers. There we go. Filmmakers. Me and Carl are going to do a podcast too.
Videographer, filmmaker, or cinematographer. Like, which one is it?
They're all the same thing, I think.
Okay. Good to know.
They might disagree. Whoever calls themselves one of the three, but
yeah, I never know.
Is it like one of those status things?
I have no clue.
You have to call me by whatever.
I don't know.
You ever notice how actors call movies films and not movies? Mm-hmm. It's kind of pretentious, I think.
Well, we always learned in art school that you don't take a photograph, you make a photograph.
Interesting.
It was always supposed to be like you
craft it.
You make this. And I'm like, I get that. Mm-hmm. And kind of, too, like we're supposed to say like our photos and our pictures. Like our images, our photography, our photos, not like, and you took some pictures. But at some point, you just kind of start saying it also.
Right, I got you.
But you make a photograph, not take it, which is interesting to think about it that way. Because back in the day with like film and developing, like you really were making, it was like a chemistry thing. Like you were making something with the exposure and the math, and it was like a whole thing. But now it's kind of like, you're not making photographs with your iPhone. You're just taking pictures.
Of course. Do you do any film photos, by the way, or all digital?
I haven't in a long time.
Okay.
In college, that's what we learned. We had to like do black and white darkroom developing like on 35mm film, and I did like the large format, medium format film where you go under the curtain like and you like the big bellows.
Wow.
I'm technically challenged. I can't even tell you the name of that camera because I already forgot. But we did a lot of that, and that was really very humbling because it's very time consuming, and if your film gets messed up, you have to do it again, over and over and over again. I was doing nude portraits of this dude. I had to go to his house like 6 times because like the film kept getting mixed up, and then it was like awkward because I'm like, I'm sorry. But they always told you in art school, like if you did anything like nude, it was like you'd be taken really seriously. It's like studies of the body, because we would draw like nude people, and we had like a figure drawing class where like there'd be like a naked guy in the middle and you draw it. So it was kind of the same thing with photography. It was kind of like one of those things where it was an unspoken thing. Like if you do at least one series of like nude work, then you'll be taken super seriously. So I was like, I'll do it. And I chose to do it with the giant camera, and the film got messed up like multiple times in a row. I had to keep like rescheduling with him, like do it again. Good thing we were friends, but it was just kind of like, hey, I'm back, get naked again. Like
that is crazy.
So, but the photos actually were kind of cool. They were black and white, like super abstract. Like it's nothing like, really, I don't know, what's it called?
Artsy.
Not scenic, central. Yeah, I don't mean it like that. Like it wasn't like porn. It was just like
biology class.
Close up like of an elbow with like light or whatever. Like it was like very like.
That is fascinating.
You mentioned a lot of. It's fascinating. You mentioned a lot of everybody has iPhone photos and crazy stuff. How do you feel about people printing pictures? Are you like?
I think you still need to.
You a believer in that? I mean, I know.
Yeah, and
I have a ton
I'm also at fault from not doing it, but that's why. Yeah, I think everyone should, and that's why when I have like an art show, I don't know if people really appreciate how expensive it is to do and how much work goes into framing something and putting it on the wall, and like even just for you and like your kids, like printing everything, putting them in scrapbooks. Like, it takes time, and there's something very like because it's so hands on. It's kind of like cathartic almost because you're like really like looking at the photo, and I think a printed photo on its own has so many more meanings. I'm getting to my art school mind here, but so much more meaning than like just swiping through the same thing in your camera. So like so many times like a photo, I think that's so good for like Instagram a completely different one might be the best one I want to print, because it's just like something different about having a printed photo. The moments are different, and when your like eye is just on that one thing and there's nothing else around, you're not quickly scrolling past it to go to the next thing. You can spend more time looking at it, and I think it makes it more important. Because you think about like the photos you had on the wall when you were a kid, they stick with you, but like, can you, I mean, if you have a kid now and you take 100 photos of him a day, like you can't, there's nothing that really sticks out to you. You're just doing it all the time. But like you remember the ones that were like on the wall, you know? Right. So I think trying to print things is important.
That's one thing I want to do more in 2020. Like print pictures. I take pictures all the time for work or for, with my family and my wife, and I don't have any on the wall.
Well, and there's really great ways. Like I told that website Blurb where I self-published the book. Anyone can do that. It takes some time and it costs a little bit of money, but you can make some really beautiful albums on your own. You can make calendars. You can get like Shutterfly or anything to print. Like any of those things is still better than having it on your phone, because if you drop that tomorrow in a puddle and you don't have it backed up, like what's it? I mean, also you can have printed stuff and it can catch on fire, flood, whatever. But just it's good to have printed stuff. I think it means more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's kind of fascinating too to think I have like 5 or so pictures of like my grandfather, but like my grandkids will probably, and yours especially.
Yeah, but I took 5 photos of myself like today. Like,
it's just thousands of photos. It's interesting, super interesting thing about. All right, couple more quick questions.
Okay.
What photographers do you look up to, and what local photographers should we look out for or should we know about?
Okay. I love this music photographer named Ashley Osborne. She does a lot of concert stuff.
For Ozzy or?
Really? I guess, I don't know. She probably could. I only met her once. She's really nice. Oh, you're fine. She's really nice. I met her once, and she lives in LA now. She's from like Chicago, I think, but she's very, very good. And she's one of those like success stories of like someone like me just shooting concerts, but like has done the damn thing. Like she's like on set of Selena Gomez's like music video. She's done album covers. Like she's doing the thing, and she's very talented. Her aesthetic is very different than mine. It's very dark, moody, black and white mostly. But we shoot similar bands, and she's very much in that Warped Tour scene of bands. And I just really love her work, and I think she's someone I look up to in terms of like someone who moved somewhere and is on another like level of what she's doing now, just from doing it for so long. So she's great. I love William Eggleston. He's like an old school photographer, like Polaroid stuff. I love his use of color and his like randomness. Like it's kind of like my occupied vacant like bathroom stuff emulates that, where it's just like random, not much.
So he does less like portraits and less people.
It is people too, but it's nothing posed. It's very much like candid, low key moments that just captured.
Cool.
And I just love like the retro aesthetic of like anything that was taken in the 60s or 70s for the film anyway. So that's why I like his work. It was from then. And there's another photographer named Neil Krug. He does like a lot of really colorful, abstract stuff for artists now. Like I think he's done a cover for like Lana Del Rey and like the Foo Fighters and some people, but they're like really artsy, crazy, like conceptual things like in the desert with like multiple colors and stuff. But he's cool. And then like locally... So Chris Parent, incredible.
LSU guy.
Yeah, he's incredible. Like if you look at his sports photography, he's got a really good way of making them artistic. Because I feel like there's a difference between like journalism photography, people who shoot for like The Advocate or like the newspaper, like have a certain aesthetic because they have a different mission. And the people who shoot for like magazines have a different mission. And then people who shoot for like the brand, like he's shooting for LSU as a brand, have a different mission. And everyone's photos could be of the same thing but are completely different approaches. I think Chris is really great at making photos of like the gymnastics team or like the swimmers or football players or whatever. It all looks so cohesive for LSU as a brand. Like, and it's crazy that like his style is developing like what LSU brand is. Cool. It's like he's part of that story.
Wow.
Gus Stark is another photographer that shoots for LSU right now. He's really great as well. They're both so talented. Like I fangirl over both of them all the time. But they're both majority. I can't talk. They both primarily, I can't talk, do sports photography. I'm like twisting my words. And then, so another photographer, Taylor Hunter, she actually just moved from Baton Rouge to Atlanta. She's really talented. She's good at portraits and lifestyle stuff. I think she's really great. And I'm blanking right now, and I'm probably going to scream at myself later because I'll remember everybody. But I like to see a lot of people's work.
Yeah. Are you like influenced by anybody in particular? Or do you just do what you want? That's another.
I'm definitely influenced probably by a lot of people, especially subconsciously.
Is that like a thing, like in art school, of like do they teach you like the mechanics of it and then they say, develop your own thing? Or is it more of like they're showing you all of these great pictures and telling you the styles and
It's both.
Okay.
It's both. And I would say like, I hate to like dog on the art school because I had a great time and I learned a lot, but like so much of what I do now is nothing that
really
I did in college. Like we really didn't focus at all on the business side of anything and didn't talk about having websites really into like the senior year, like last semester, like that kind of stuff. We focused a lot on aesthetic and, well, not even aesthetic, like conceptual stuff. Like it was about like
why you do certain things.
Why, like what does this picture mean? Like what are you trying to convey through it? And that's all great, but I don't really have that much of that going on in my work now. It's very much commercial based. Like you pay me for a picture, you look good in it, like I give it to you. Like there's no deeper meaning. It's like did you look good in it or not? Or like was it good for your brand or not? So when I do personal work, I have like concepts, but I don't think that way as much anymore because in school that's pretty much like what you're doing. It's like this picture of like this soda can, like why? Like in the critique, like why is it? Like is it the color, is the shadow? Like what does this mean? And you're not really talking so much about like the technicality of it or the style. And so we focused a lot on like metaphorical things and like abstract things and less on the technical side of things. I still don't know how to use my flash properly. I don't really know how to use like lighting equipment that well, like because we don't focus a lot on that. It's very much like learn film, learn why the photo means this, and then that was kind of it. And so a lot of like the digital tricks I've learned, like workflow stuff, like how to do things faster or how to deal with clients. I learned a lot of that by interning for the other photographer or just like trial and error on my own. So that's kind of frustrating because we didn't learn a lot of that in college. But it is both. We studied a lot of other photographers' work, but mostly what does this picture mean? Like why did they do it? What were they trying to convey? And that was the bulk of it, really.
What part of all of the things that you do you find the most rewarding for you?
I get caught up in money and like how you have to like do this for a living. So you get caught up in like the dollars and it's just, you kind of forget like what you're even doing. Is it even helpful for someone? Like, cause I'm on my selfish side of like, well, I just need you to pay me for this thing cause I have to do the next thing. And so sometimes I get lost in like what I'm doing and how much it helps the client. And so sometimes it's something as small as like I photographed like my friend's second birthday and like they printed the photo giant over the fireplace. And I'm just like, oh, like you liked it. That's cool. And you liked it enough to print it that big and it's on your wall. Like little things like that like make me realize how much I like what I do, but I don't think about it on that level so often. I'm like caught up in all the crap that goes into running the business that I'm not even sure like if you even liked the photos or not or what you're doing with them. So I need to get more into appreciating that. But that's what I think is the most rewarding part is kind of, or like when I shoot for like a company and they like the photo so much they're going to like use it for, I don't know, their billboard or something. And I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. Like, because in the moment, I'm just there trying to get the shot and move on to the next thing, get home, edit it, and get it on time and process the invoice and blah, 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 blah. That I don't even think about it until like later when I see it being used. I'm like, oh, that's why they hired me to use these photos. I'm glad they're using them and they like them. So I forget that sometimes.
That's cool. Cool. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming all the way down here and hanging out on super short notice. This was very enjoyable.
Thank you. I hope I didn't talk too much. I probably did.
No, I wasn't joking. Like I could probably ask you like 100 more questions. So
well, just have me on again.
I will, absolutely.
You come on my podcast. I'm serious.
I don't think I should. I don't know what we would talk about. I would have to talk more on your podcast. That might be a bad thing for you. But
well, hit me up if you want it.
Appreciate it. Thank
One day, season 2 will be happening.
One day.
The day is not today. But.
Right. That's right. We have discovered some procrastination bone in your body.
A little bit.
But you do a ton of stuff, so
because there's lots of other stuff going on. Yeah.
Right. Cool. Thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
This was awesome. Thanks everybody for checking out this episode, and a huge thanks again to Jordan for driving down here and hanging out with me for a couple of hours. This was a ton of fun, and she agreed to do this podcast on something like less than 24 hours notice. So thank you, Jordan. I really, really appreciate it. You should go follow Jordan right now on Instagram if you're not already. Her handle, as we mentioned, at Jordan Hefler, and you should visit her website, jordanhefler.com, to see all of the cool stuff, products, content, and blog posts and podcasts that she puts out. And look for her on the sidelines tonight at the national championship game. And good luck, Jordan. I know you're going to get some awesome photos. Thanks again, everybody. See you on the next one.